Welcome to the Fullcaster Podcast, episode 29. Today's guest is Derek Zimmermann, longtime racer. I think a lot of people know him probably from being under the Nash tent, but he's been floating around, been all over the place in the paddock for a while, and I think he's a very recognizable guy and certainly a talent behind the wheel. And Derek and I got a chance to run with him a little bit with the 206 stuff and whatnot, so I'm looking forward to chatting with him a little bit, see what he does behind the scenes that we don't know much about, and kind of reminisce about our karting days and what we did together. But, let's move on to the current events so we can get Derek on. And we
were kind of lost trying to find something current to talk about.
We're light on events. Yeah. We're recording this on 19th of April, and LAKC just happened this weekend. I did not race. You did not race.
No.
You did not race the last Tri-C either.
Right.
So we've been a couple of weeks here without racing, and it almost seems like it's been forever, actually.
Yeah, we're kind of just twiddling our thumbs, I feel like.
Yeah.
The next chance we'd actually have to drive would be this week for testing.
Right, for the Arrive and Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we do the testing on Thursdays for Arrive and Drive. You've actually been sitting out because of that rib injury. You're going to set out this Thursday
out one
as
more
well.
week, ideally, yeah.
And then, so this weekend we got Arrive and Drive event, Super Series and Ironman Series. But then the following week will be Tri-C round number 4, and hopefully, my friend, you're going to be back in the game.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It sucked. I missed driving this last weekend after watching 2 days of a busy track. I'm like, I could definitely hop back in the seat and enjoy it, but not sure the body would be so happy.
Well, and speaking of that, like this morning, we've kind of converted the garage that I have into a small little home gym, if you will.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of going. The idea was to go down there and do some working out, and then I got this new. Becky, my wife, she got the new
this workout bench.
The bench, and
it's got a lot of little doohickeys on it.
It took me you helped me undo the box, and I was like, hey, go ahead and keep working, or go ahead and do the workout thing, because that was the point. And God, it took me almost an hour to just unpack it.
Yeah, the amount of crap that they have wrapped around those poles is insane. Yeah. And then by the time you're done, the entire floor space is covered
in just stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't work out. You did, and you're just starting to get back into it. But we're kind of like a little bit downtime, so we're not racing, we're not practicing. I know that I'm trying to catch up on video games and stuff, the TV shows and crap like that I've been trying to do in like the evenings and crap like that.
Right. And I started because of Dante, you were talking to him at the last episode. We were talking about going back and forth about TV and shows and a bunch of different stuff. But he goes, hey, you guys might like Attack on Titan. And we're like, hey, you might like the show The Boys.
Right.
So the deal was for LAKC week that we have to watch the first episode of Attack on Titan. He has to watch the first episode of The Boys, which he didn't do yet, but I held up my end of the bargain. I did watch Attack on Titan
It's been a week.
Yesterday morning. Yeah, I did watch Attack on Titan yesterday morning, so that was kind of cool.
So
I might
reconvene at the Tri-C race.
I might have a new show that I'm starting, though, so that will keep me busy. It was pretty cool.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a cool premise.
I'll have to check it out, and we'll see. I mean, like we said, we're going to get back in the Arrive and Drive game here this weekend. We got, hopefully, racing again for you, and I'll be running the Tri-C thing again as the plan. And 100cc Masters, and we'll have more to talk about maybe on the next recording, which will be in early May. But for now, we have a guest in-house, and we can make things happen right now. So let's quit blabbling around this current events with no events, and bring on Derek Zimmermann. Derek Zimmermann, thanks for coming out, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good to be here.
This is gonna be a fun one. I think we were actually just talking to. I was over in the Nash tent not too long ago, and Matt Johnson's like, "Dude, when are we gonna do another episode?" And I'm like, "Man, I gotta get Derek Zimmermann on before that." And then, like, just a few days later, or whatever,
Derek signed the contract, and now he's here.
Yeah, we're like, and
now
let's
here.
actually do it. Yeah. But yeah, thanks for coming out. It's Monday. We just got done with LAKC and whatnot, so you could be at home relaxing.
Yeah, you got me off of my memes and Call of Duty for the day of relaxing after LAKC. This is day 5 out of 7 that I've been here.
Yeah,
with you guys, I think too. So
yeah,
it's all good.
Story. Yeah,
it's all good.
The only people who can compete with being at CalSpeed more than Derek and I are the actual teams and stuff
The
like that.
Musgraves,
Yeah.
the Nashes,
Exactly.
the Giebler.
Formula Works, all
Formula
those
Work,
guys.
yeah,
the
Syracuse is
local
always
guys.
here. Yeah.
So what is the 9 to 5? Is it basically you're kind of working as a coach, as a tuner, whatever? But what do you do on a regular?
Yes, so right now with all the racing that we've had going on, they've scheduled all these races back to back, and Seth's been doing the Florida Winter Tour,
right?
Whether it's been for SCUSA or Rock, and we did Pro Tour. I've had so much go-karting work right now that it's taken up the last few months almost every weekend.
Right.
I think we've had only 1 or 2 weekends off in the last 3 months.
So this is your gig. The karting is
Karting
what
right
you
now
do.
is my gig. Yeah, sometimes when the karting takes a break or gets a little slower, I'll go do plumbing with my uncle.
Oh, okay.
Help him a little bit. It's good to know, how to do important
Trade.
stuff like
Basic
that.
stuff like that,
Get a
yeah.
good trade, yeah. And so I've always been a pretty handy guy. I know how to work on just about anything, especially if you show me how it works once and I can fix it, figure it out, maybe even improve it.
Gotcha.
Nice.
So that's cool. In the winter when we don't have karting after Super Nats, I can usually go work for him for a month or two. And then
Gotcha.
once karting starts back up, it's just kind of spotty here and there.
You can always plug in whatever.
Yeah, I can
as
plug in
needed.
whenever we have a little bit of time off. But yeah, mostly the karting because we're so busy. And then Seth's been utilizing me a lot for lead follow stuff lately.
Yeah, been seeing you on
Yeah, I've
course
actually-
a little bit more.
Yeah, I made the mistake of telling him I wanted to drive, and now he's got me in the
Idiot.
seat a couple days a week, and I'm so sore, but it's good.
Dude,
It's
yeah,
great.
actually, it'd been a while since I seen you in the seat, and then you're doing some lead follows, and you were actually just at Adams for their night race. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, Zim's coming back.
Yeah, I was trying to do an NCK road race, and they ended up canceling the night portion because they couldn't get enough entries.
Oh.
And I'm sure there's other issues or whatever, but I saw that Tri-C was doing their Cali Nights thing, and I love Adams. I grew up racing there. I've been racing there since 96, 97.
Okay.
And so when I got the opportunity to go do that here locally for, a fraction of the cost, it was a
Sure.
no-brainer to
Yeah.
go have fun because I love Tri-C.
Yeah.
Trisha and Nathan and those guys put on a great program. It's a good family atmosphere. So
Getting a chance to go out there and get behind the wheel again is gotta be
it was
nice.
awesome. Yeah, I happened to pick the month that they ran the S's and everything, and I hadn't driven in a while, so I was definitely sore. I thought my arms were going to fall off after the first session, but
Oh, man.
after that, we were good.
Nice. The so you're doing the karting thing. That's basically quote your 9 to 5 or what? Are you
Yeah.
working for Seth exclusively?
No, he's my priority. He schedules me for as much as he can. I'm probably, his second or third in line as a mechanic if he needs somebody important. But if for some reason I have a weekend off, I'm available to go work for just about anyone.
Gotcha.
When we went to New Orleans, I was working under Perry's tent with the Morgans.
Oh, gotcha.
Joe hired me to work for both of the kids, and I was just we had Jeff Osborne on Carson's cart and Austin Miles on Cole's carts, and then I did all the tires, and I kind of helped, and I looked over the Ks a little more than the X30s because that's kind of my expertise right now.
And because they're doing 2 classes. at the
They're
time.
doing,
So
we
it's
had
4
both
carts.
kids doing 2 classes, so 4 carts,
Wow.
3 mechanics, and it was still like,
Busy.
oh, it was so busy because they run a fast schedule at Tom's Deal, so we were running around, and it was good though. We did good. The kids killed it. Like, it's good. But so that weekend I did that, and then next week I might be out here for a track day with Phil if he calls and needs somebody. I'm on good terms with most of the teams, so if they need somebody, I'm available.
Yeah,
It's
what
all
you
good.
would basically consider you are
I'm
a
I'm-
karting mechanic
I'm an
/
independent
coach, etc.
contractor,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
for karting. I can do everything. Yeah, we do driver coaching. We can do the data end of it. I can rebuild the engine. I'm one of the few guys at the tracks that can really do end-to-end everything about your track day if needed. Like, you can go total the cart, blow the engine up, flip the thing, blow the brakes out, and I'll rebuild it and have it back on the track within an hour or two, whatever.
right. Just trying to do all those things at the same
parts
time.
and time, parts and time limited.
Yeah,
obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. So you got a little bit of everything that you can do, but kind of maybe going back to the beginning. You said that you started at Adams in '96, or you've been running there since '96. Is that when you started getting into karting, and how did that get started?
Yes. So my dad and both of my uncles raced in the I want to say the mid to late '60s
Oh wow.
when they were kids.
Doing
And
karting and stuff?
Doing karting. My grandpa did karting back over in Azusa when it started, And then so they raced there, and then my dad did dirt bikes for a while, and then when I was born, he got back into karting, and he raced with Jim Barry at a Leading Edge of Upland from, I don't know, from as long as I could remember, the early 90s until I started racing in 96, 97. That was about when Leading Edge closed.
And how old are you right now?
I'll be 34. I'm
34, so carry the one. So you're, what, late 80s you were born,
87.
Right? 87.
Yep.
Gotcha. So 87 you were born, all you can remember is...
Yeah, go-karting. Like, I have a picture somewhere, I think it's at my mom's. There's a picture, it's either at my mom's or in my storage somewhere. There's a picture of my dad holding me, and in the bushes in the background are the oleanders and stuff at Adams that are probably still growing there, I imagine, in a few spots.
Wow.
And so it's pretty cool. It's what I do.
Yeah, I mean,
I know
literally
karting.
Born into it. And
I was born into it, and it's what we've done my whole life. I was taking apart engines and stuff on the bench at 4 years old, 5 years old, when I could understand what was going on.
And so you've been a part of it, whatnot. But going back to, you said your dad would race and stuff like that, and he'd been doing it for a while.
Yeah,
then.
they did it. He was pretty successful at it. I think he won club championships at Socal and
like Socal Sprinters.
Yeah, Socal Sprinters and stuff. And they did a few IKF races. I think he won a couple here and there. He mainly would go and work for one of his good buddies, Jeff Cross, that was racing at the time. And they would go to all the the IKF Nationals, and they went to, I think it was in Cuddy-Backville, New York, and all this stuff. And back when like Kevin Harvick was a little kid racing Junior 1 and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I grew up watching locally. I'd go to all the local big races.
Yeah.
And, anytime I could tag along to go to Tri-C, SoCal, or any local IKF, I was right there.
And you had an interest in it right away, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean, the whole time I grew up, we were watching Formula One every weekend. We're watching karting. We're watching all the NASCAR races.
Yeah. Well, and with the amount of karting, it sounds like there's a race pretty much every weekend.
So back then, Tri-C ran on Saturday, the second Saturday of the month at Adams, and then SoCal ran on the fourth Saturday.
And talking to Matt, it sounded like can't remember if it was Saugus or something, but basically you'd start at like high desert and then come down here. Like AM would be a high desert race, PM would finish out here.
Right before I started racing, I think they changed the schedule a little bit. I think Tri-C was racing on Sunday or something, and so you could go hit one of the other tracks on one day and then come around the other one on the other day, and change almost nothing other than just your sprocket, maybe.
Yeah,
that's so
a lot of these tracks were built all about the same size and tightness like Adams, and so they're pretty close on the sprocket. You can get away with running the same gear.
Gotcha. So you said your dad was running whatnot. How did you? You're going and you're watching these races, etc., and he's doing his own racing. Mm-hmm. You said he raced for Jim Barry, and obviously that piques my interest because I run for Jim now.
Yeah, Jim is like an uncle to me.
Wow.
I've known Jim my entire life.
How did that? You said he was also doing the working for his Jeff Cross whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
How did he get involved with the Jim Barry deal, and how long did that last? And did you get a chance to run in that same deal?
How him and Jim got hooked up, that would be something you'd have to ask Matt, because his memory on stuff like that is far greater than mine. Because
Matt Johnson, you're talking about?
Matt Johnson, yeah. Because Matt's dad, Mike, and their friend Tony Stone and Jim, and they were all good friends and racing with each other.
Yeah.
And so
I think Jim told me that Mike.
Yeah,
that
would be a great question for Jim that I would even like to know.
Yeah,
because
the Jim
I've probably heard the story a million times, but just it's been so long that I can't remember.
So going straight then to when you got started, how did you go from being at the track or whatever as a munchkin? Because we do know that back then, it's not like kids are getting into it stat, that you kind of have to grow into the full-size cart. How did you get started?
Well, we continue with the linkage. My dad was good friends with the Irvings, and Travis Irving, and Don and Brett. And so I'm getting to be, I think it was, at the time you had to be 8 to start. They had eliminated the kid cart, or not, it wasn't a kid cart class, but they had raised the age minimum for whatever reason right around the time I was old enough.
They raised it?
Yeah, for whatever reason. They didn't have a kid cart class. It was just a Junior 1. I don't even think they even had really cadet chassis.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure, it was just guys hopping in full-size carts. Or
Yeah,
because
even like my first cadet cart was one of Travis's. It was Travis's old Mac Minarelli cadet cart.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was an
And
actual
cadet carts.
cart.
Yeah, cadet carts had only been around for a few years. Everyone had just been running short adult carts.
When I first started in '94 up north, actually
something modified to fit your short kid.
It was they had just changed the wheelbase deal.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah,
and so that was '94, and so you're talking about '96ish. You're available, but it also, I was one of the youngest kids that was running at 12, and I want to say like the next year or something like that. Then a new kid, or maybe a new kid, started right at the time, and he was 8. Mm-hmm. And in junior 1.4 cycle at the time.
I just remember. Yeah, I remember my dad telling me, and he was super bummed about it because he wanted to get me involved as early as possible.
Away,
that for whatever reason, I think before I turned, I think it was 6. I want to say it was like 6. They were letting the kids drive. That'd be another good question for Matt or Jim.
Well, and actually, when we did the Troy
and
Adams
they raised
deal,
it to 8. Right when, like the year before I turned 6 or something, they raised it to 8.
Oh,
and so we just got a cart. We got a cart. I want to say it was like Christmas of '95, and then I was just practicing.
Yeah,
just a lot of practice.
Yeah, Troy Adams said that when he was trying to get the kid cart stuff going, man, I can't remember what the hell year that was, but he was doing the school at '92.
Yeah,
I had to
Troy
go back
would know all that stuff too, because he's one of the Troy and Dave DeMond, Connor's dad, Dave.
Yeah,
they're the kid. They've been involved working with the kids as long as I've known it. Either of them.
And actually, if I had any kind of memory myself, I would have remembered what Troy told us in his episode.
Yeah, right.
But so in '95, you get a Christmas present basically.
Yeah, those pictures are floating around still.
Are they?
Too.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, that'd be cool.
Yeah. It's Travis's old Mac Minarelli, and so we just go start that day, Christmas Day. My dad took me to the Discount Tire parking lot in Upland. It's just
like
below
Christmas Day.
Yeah, Christmas Day.
Awesome.
He okays it with the boss because Tony they're like best friends, and it's a franchise or whatever. And he's like, "Oh yeah, just go use the parking lot, set up some cones so no one pulls in the deal. You're good."
Best Christmas
That's
ever.
awesome.
Yeah, doing little L shape, right around the parking area. No
Nice.
big deal. Cool. And then go to Adams and get pushed around by Jerry Henderson and Jeff Cross and Mike Johnson and Matt and
Man, and so you're okay. So Matty at that time is because he's 41 this year, I think.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
8 years older than you or so.
something like that. I forget too.
Seth
Seth just
7.
turned 42. Seth just turned 42 a couple weeks ago, or a week or so
I think I
ago.
missed that one.
And I think him and Matt are pretty close. So
Yeah.
The only reason why I remember that is I want to say when we recorded the episode with Matty, he was 40. He just turned 40 that year. That was last year. So that's the only reason why I remember that. And where I'm going with that is so he's kind of coaching you up a little bit at the same time.
He coached me a little bit. He was enough older than me that I just kind of watched him, and he was one of the older kids running around the track that I watched.
Yeah.
And I was running around playing in the dirt with like Joey Barros and stuff. We're within a year.
But like you had said, like Craig and Mike and these guys, like so you've been around him for a while. You kind of see he's like almost like an older brother.
Oh yeah. All these guys are like family for me, even to this day.
Even before you were
definitely.
karting.
I mean, you started off with them at such a young age.
Yeah. They were all, like I said, my dad was friends with them all, and so we're all in the same, within 5 to 10 years of age group as kids. So running around at Adams and having fun and playing in the dirt and stuff, and y'all get to know each other.
And those kids,
Freckleton and Freckleton's I think 2 years older than me.
Gotcha.
And so.
Yeah, and so you're like Maddie, and they're
I was
starting to
watching
race.
those guys race. Yeah,
Like, wow, I want to do it.
That was where I learned. I was watching those guys race, and I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to do that, and it's really cool, and I want to be as good as some of. I'd get to see like Patrick Long would come out and race.
Yeah.
I got to watch guys like that come through and race.
Harvick,
Billy
as you're talking
Cleveland, you
about.
guys had him on here.
Yeah.
Billy was a good friend of my dad's too, and Billy was one of the first guys pushing me around the track when I moved up into junior and was starting to find my way a little more.
Gotcha.
And so that's always Billy's like an uncle to me too.
That's so crazy how it's such a small world,
It is
man.
such a small world.
Well, yeah, and it's a small world that, like for me, like I'm not from the area at all, right? And like Derek got into karting when he was a little bit later, right? So we even just did the episode with Troy, and it was only like the third time I'd ever been there. Mm-hmm. And what I think is interesting about that is that definitely the epicenter of karting was Adams. you know, and
for sure,
all
100%.
you guys growing, and so all these stories intertwining, and they all have the same refrain, and it's, wow, we were atoms that time, and so on and so forth. Going back to when you first started, you get this Mac Marinelli cart from Travis Irving. You go out and you start racing. You're doing what class?
We go practice. At that time, it was Junior 1 and
Yamaha or something like that.
It was Junior 1 Yamaha. It was just before the Comer had come out, and so it was just Junior 1 Yamaha, and then they split it. Once the Comer came out, you could run Rookie Sportsman, which was Yamaha only, or you could run Junior 1 Comer. And then sometimes they'd let you run them mixed together if it was just a club deal.
Right.
And so, just a lot of practice in that. I remember going out to Adams a lot of days, and it was like, all right, if you can get under a minute, you can get a dark visor for your helmet.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
You
little
know,
incentives.
little things like that. And that's still stuff I do with the kids I work with today. You know, we do little things like that.
Something from their, a little carrot for them.
Little carrot. And so that's how I learned little carrots from my dad and from, you know, all the mentors that I've listed off, Matt and Anderson. And
you right out of the gate, you're running the Junior 1 stuff, and so 96. So you got a year or two that you could do cadets, right?
I practiced in 96, so I'm 9. And so I did a lot of practice. I have 2 trophies from Sundowners Kart Club, which I think turned into they had merged with like Tri-C or something.
Gotcha.
That was being run by some other family friends. And we did
that.
Who
are you running with? Who are
just my dad out of the back of the truck, man.
Yeah? Just you guys?
Yeah, just out of the back of the truck, just me and my dad. We had a little green, the AstroTurf, man. My dad had this cool little triangle-shaped thing that he built that folded up on the truck, and so you could fold it up and it would sit in the middle as a triangle, and you could load all the stuff under it, and then you'd lay it flat and roll the cart on it, and it had little L pieces of aluminum. The tire just stopped on. You take the nose off and just.
Oh, nice.
Actually, I think that was before my car didn't even. My first cart didn't even have a nose.
Same. There's no plastics on it.
I had just the metal and then just the plexiglass.
I
had the flat plexiglass on the first one.
Oh, that's God, I was so jealous.
Cool.
And my dad,
I wanted those.
My dad had it all nice. Dude, when he
out.
gave it to me, it was sweet. It was funny. I remember my mom and my dad's buddy told me, oh yeah, he was down there at the shop every night working on it, getting it all primed up.
So you don't race right away in 96?
No,
you're just practicing?
Yeah, a lot of practice because the mentality with the dads back then was, you know, get them to learn, get as much experience before you go throw them on the track, because you got to teach them at least the basics and make sure that they're going to be safe, because we see, you know, occasionally, even this last weekend, you know, you'll see kids that don't really belong out there quite yet.
Right.
But, you know, they'd get thrown out there into the deep end, which is the fastest way to learn, but sometimes isn't always the safest.
Sure.
So usually when you come from someone who is racing karts already, they understand that right away, and so they're like, we're going to go get you up to speed right away.
Right.
We're going to worry about getting you running the right line consistently and making sure you're not a hazard to yourself or any of the other kids before we even put you on the track in a racing condition.
Right.
And then so we did that, I want to say, for like a year and a half. We would only go race at like Paris, where there was almost nobody, and it was just basically that. It was just a fun deal, a bunch of new kids, no big pressure, no, you know, you're not making any of the dads mad because you're getting lapped and messing up the race.
Well, and I gotta imagine as a munchkin, that's a little bit nicer too, right?
It was
Instead of being
nice,
in the deep end of the pool, getting, you know, all this stuff going on. You're like, oh man, I'm not doing good. Blah blah blah.
I remember the first year my dad threw me in the deep end. For me, it was at Socal. He would put me out in the front of practice every session, right in front of the national champion at the time. It was David Thompson, one of my best friends, and he was one of the baddest kids in junior at the time, and that was like terrifying to me because he would lap me in the main,
man,
like whatever.
I gotta run up here with him.
At the time he's throwing me out in front of all the kids that run IKF and stuff, and I was like, that was terrifying as a little kid. You're just freaking out.
There's so much overwhelming some of the little kids out
there,
man.
It was the best thing for me because I wasn't terrible. Like I said, it would take the whole main event for him to lap me. I wasn't getting lapped in like 3 or 4 laps.
You had the fundamentals, so that part
I had
was
all the
right.
fundamentals.
Just
so
the speed was a little lower.
Yeah, the speed was just low, and so he would throw me out there, and each time that he would do that, I would learn a little bit because,
Right.
he'd send me out, and the other dads kind of understood what was going on because it was just a local club race, and so they'd let me pull out.
Yeah.
And then the other kids would take a little bit to catch me, and they'd,
And then one would pass you learn a little bit. Next one pass you learn a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's still, I do that. You'll see me doing that with the kids that I work with. I'll go send them out, no matter how slow we are, as long as we're not a hazard,
Right.
I'll send them out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, when the faster kid passes you, latch on behind him and
Pick
figure
something
out.
up.
For
Yeah.
this first
Try and
few
learn
corners,
something,
yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's one or two things, it's a success.
Yeah.
You
Especially
don't have to go learn it all
practice day.
in one session.
Yeah.
It's you can't overwhelm the kids trying to learn everything at once. And so I was really lucky in that. We did a lot of track days where I just did laps and laps and laps. And then I think my dad probably set a benchmark for the time, get under this time and then we'll go race. I feel like it was probably junior one. He wanted me under a minute for the visor. And so to race, it was probably, get under like 57, 58.
Yeah.
That way, you might get lapped in the main. If you make X amount of mistakes, you're going to get lapped.
Right.
And nobody wants to get lapped.
Yeah. But if you don't make
But if you don't make any mistakes, he might not catch you.
Yeah. There's the carrot.
Yeah, exactly. And
not sucking is the carrot.
Exactly. And for me, I was honestly terrible until probably 2001 was when I really
That's a long time.
my learning curve really steepened
Well,
up.
what's
racing
talking
with the
about
other
that
kids.
with the cadets, and you've got your Matty
2000.
J's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are you getting some proper coaching, or is it just kind of like
So,
go out there and follow guys?
It was just go out and follow, and
because your dad raced, so he could potentially
they were
hook you
giving
up
me
with.
they were giving me coaching and stuff. It's not like today where you're getting any dedicated coaching from paying someone like me to go
Right.
teach. I mean, I'm sure it was probably available here or there, but it definitely
wasn't as common of a thing.
No, it was not like today.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, we're going to the track and we're taking my kid. You want to come do some laps? And, just one of your sessions, go push him around for a little bit and let him, follow you and learn a thing or two. It was a little more laid back like that, not, go hire a couple $100 mechanic to bring stuff out.
And I don't because there was so much out of the back of the pickup and stuff like that.
It was
back
all
then.
exactly.
No teams or nothing. I thought it felt like when I started in '94. I remember like one of the first times I went out there and I got any kind of quote coaching. It was actually I just found him on Facebook. Elmer Patterson. So that's how I got into karting via my dad and him and blah blah blah. Anyway, we're at Pat's Acres and it's slow this particular day, and I want to say Elmer and my dad are out there, and they're putting their toes where the apex is. Like this is an apex.
My dad used to do that to
you
me.
go
too.
right
go
here.
stand on the track. Yeah.
Don't hit me. But
I used
this
to
is
trip
where
my
you want
friends
to go.
out with that move too.
Yeah.
I'd make them go after my dad taught me that, and I learned, and then I got to the age where I knew that and stuff, and we'd bring my random friends out to the track that I skateboarded with or whatever. I'd go, okay, stand right here, and I'd come flying by them sideways and stuff, and just barely miss them. They're like, oh man, give them a whole because they'd hear you race go-karts, and they're like, oh, you race go-karts, and they think of the Family Fun Center,
Sure,
little 10-mile-an-hour.
Like
poopers
Thrillville
that
or
are
whatever.
terrible. Yeah.
Because
The one by me was Bullwinkles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Off the 10 freeway and Mountain. That was the one that me and my dad always went to.
Because that's what you
That's
had
right.
back
And
then. You didn't
Scandia.
have
And
yeah.
Scandia.
Yeah, you didn't have your indoor tracks. That crap didn't start happening until
K1,
late 90s and stuff like that.
What was the first one I remember was, I think, Dromo 1 in Anaheim.
Yeah.
Was the first one that
And that
I
was-
remember
Yep.
being like, oh, there's an indoor kart track we can go to? Rad.
Yeah, and they were actually like
And they
not
were good
governed
karts. Yeah,
and crap
not
like that.
Not the poopers, yeah.
Yeah. So you're not getting the proper coaching, and just kind of put a point on that too. Like
I would still
Elmer
call
was
it
a shop.
I would still call it almost proper coaching because it's similar to what I still do today, but it's just
Fair,
it's
yes.
not.
It
I'd
was like
say it's-
Elmer was the head of a shop, and so the shop guy would
It's not
kind of
quite as organized.
lead
it's
you
a little
along.
more.
I think that's
It's
a
a
good
little
way to
more
put it.
fun.
Yeah.
You didn't go with a plan like today. Like this weekend, I had a plan.
An agenda,
I
this
had
is
a
what we're gonna
plan with
work
my
on.
my micro kid. I had a complete plan from the minute he showed up of what we're doing and
Right.
to try and achieve the victory. Mm-hmm. Not even the victory. We're just trying to get him his first trophy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his victory.
very first trophy.
Nice.
That's all he wants, and so
Yeah.
we're working on that.
Yeah. Well, and again, there you go.
That's not
the
how.
carrot.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it really wasn't. I'm sure my dad had a little bit of stuff like that. Like I remember one time he threw on the Yamaha. You would run a little tiny carburetor, like off of a weed whacker,
Okay.
for the little kids to make it go slow, right? Or a little tiny restrictor. one or the other. So one day he takes the restrictor out, and I come in. I'm like, dude, this thing is so fast. And it's like, you learn, so that's what I did with my kid this weekend. I put him in the mini. I let him practice in mini for the whole day. I sent him out right with Charlie Smith in mini.
Yeah.
And just let him run laps and laps and laps. And he was only a tenth or two off Charlie. And I'm like, dude,
Perfect.
if you do this tomorrow, you have a chance to win.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I threw his micro stuff on, and we went a tenth faster than anyone.
There you go.
And I was like, you see what we're doing here?
Especially in a scenario where they're starting to get used to the speed and things like that.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of what my dad did with me. He'd put the faster stuff on here and there just to surprise me and see how I took it. Or he'd have...
Yeah, and not tell you, right?
He'd
Just
have
go do
Jerry
it.
Adams turn the sprinklers on halfway through my practice session just so we could get a little rain practice in. Steven's running around. Steven's about the same age as Matt. Stephen Clark. He's about the same age as Matt. He was running around the track too. And so they'd turn the sprinklers and stuff on just to mess with me while I was practicing.
Yeah, that's
just
awesome.
to learn.
Yeah.
Just to learn car control and surprises. And now the guy blows his radiator line going into the corner and the track's wet. I see water. I know what to do well before I even hit that puddle.
Sure.
Just out of stuff that I learned when I was 8 years old.
Isn't that awesome?
And on.
God, I love that. We were actually dodging cow pies at Pat's.
I believe it. I believe it.
They would leave the gate open or whatever. The cows would come through like eating the grass or whatever.
It's like the sheep at Sonoma.
Yeah.
Oh,
Have you
that's
seen
funny.
that one?
Yeah, because you just
I've
have a
seen
key.
all the sheep. I didn't know that they...
Oh, dude, it's bad.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
man.
leave Motul Tech grease turds on the track.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
'Cause, back then at Pat's, it was Portland Karting Association, and as a member, you'd get a key. So you just get a key to the gate. And there's like nobody around. I don't
That's
remember.
how a lot of the NorCal tracks and
I
stuff.
don't even remember signing waivers
Yeah,
as a
they're all
munchkin until the race
Santa
days.
Maria was like that. If you're a club member, you get the
key.
I think they're still like that. You get the access code to the track. You go practice if you're a club member.
And you got to dodge some pies, or you got to, there's a little bit
Yeah, you
of
might have to do
debris
a
or
little track
whatever.
maintenance, but it's part of the deal.
You're driving.
I love it.
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool. So you're doing the cadet. You start racing in cadets though. Like you do.
Yeah, I
get
started
to the point where
racing.
you're
I
racing
started
cadets.
racing full time. I think '98 was my first full season. We're gonna go run SoCal every race.
And you're 11 or 12.
My birthday's in April, so yeah,
Okay.
I turned 11. A few races into the season, and I have a picture somewhere. I'll find it.
And who's in your quote class? Like who are you racing with at the time?
Joey Barros. I think Steven's a couple years younger than me, so he wasn't quite racing yet. I remember when he started racing, though.
Steven Barros,
yeah, Steven and Joey. And then some of the other kids. Most of those ones aren't really around. David Thompson, he was, like I said, the national champion at the time. There was a handful of other kids.
Because a lot of the kids that were either
Joel
juniors
Miller.
or seniors were rolling at that point. So, Joel Miller. That's a name.
Joel Miller. That's a good. Yeah, I raced with him a little bit in cadet, and then he moved up. I stayed in cadet a year longer because I was still learning, and he moved up.
Yeah,
because everybody moves up in their option year. When you're old enough to run the next class up,
If
you got the experience, you automatically move up almost always.
My first year, I was 12, so that was the option year, and so we ran cadets.
I was still terrible, so we ran an extra year of cadet just because. And I was racing with a few notable names that are either still around or have moved on to other things, and then mostly a few random kids here and there.
Sure. And you're learning. And how's it go that first year?
I did decent. I was like mid-pack. There was back then at SoCal, you would probably get, I want to say, almost 20 cadets. You'd get
they're
15
like
to
rookie
20.
sportsman kind of stuff.
Yeah, in the junior one class, you'd get like 15 or 20.
Man,
and
good.
so I would finish like 10th,
Yeah.
whatever. On a good day, I might finish inside the top 10.
And you do another year of cadets?
Do another year of cadets. I think, so that first year, I think I got like 8th, because I remember I kept having my championships every year. That first year, I think I got 8th in the championship. And then the next year, I got 4th. And then the next year, I moved up to junior sportsman, which was 12 to 15. And then I was racing against Joshua Harris. And then I was racing against Darren Hagen, who raced sprint cars for a long time.
Okay.
And Joel Miller still. He was...
Because he had moved up, but you're back in
now,
the class.
I just moved up behind him. And then I was racing with some of my other still friends, Neil Otto and Joey and Steven still. We're within... Joey's, I think the same age as me, and Steven's a year younger or something, or 2 years younger. And so we all moved up together, and we just raced together all the way.
Nice.
It was cool.
So you got that 3-year deal, and so you started in, so you're getting
98, 99, full-time in cadet, and then in 2000 we moved up to junior sportsman.
So in the juniors is where you go from, again, kind of maybe a tumultuous first year, but things starting to click for you.
Yeah, things are starting to click. I have some old video floating around, and I've watched it. It's actually that picture I sent you, that old picture I sent you is from that year in 2000 because it's my top cart. It was a top cart JT28, and it was a 28 millimeter top cart. It was one of the few small tubing full-size carts. And for a junior, for me on a cold Saturday night, it worked great.
Yeah.
And if it rained, it was on. I got my first win in the rain on slicks because of that baby.
Oh, wow.
And so it just
that sprinkler time.
That was a cart I bought from Empire.
Right.
I bought it from Empire Carts. It was Danny Stockman's old cart. Danny Stockman is Austin Dillon's crew chief. I don't know if he is still. He was.
Gotcha.
I've heard
that's neat.
I've heard
just
that name before.
Yeah, it's cool. The small world again. I buy this car and they're like, "Oh yeah, it was this guy's car." And at the time, he was a teenager. He was a large guy. Mm-hmm. Running this really small tubing cart, it just did not work for him. And so I got like a brand new cart at a great deal. And for me, it was awesome. I ran that cart into the ground. It was great.
Were you super competitive, or were you kind of just
not results, but just like his mentality? Is that what you mean?
Yes and no. That was probably about when I started getting competitive.
Once it started to click for you?
That's about when it started to click because I was racing against those other kids that, like in junior one, there was only a few kids that would come around that were like really, really good, the IKF level kids, and they'd only come around before the IKF race and stuff.
Right.
And then when I moved up to junior, Josh Harris and Darren Hagen raced all the IKF races, but they were locals here. And so they raced Tri-C and Socal, and they had that was like one of the biggest rivalries I can remember as a kid, was those two just back and forth every race.
Wow.
They had the same engine builder, but they raced head to head, really aggressive, and so that was how I learned a lot from watching those two race.
Sure.
And racing with them, and
because you were trying to keep exclusively,
up.
Right?
Yeah, I was only running Socal, and then I would go hit. As a junior, I started to hit the Tri-C stuff. At Tri-C, we could run junior Superbox.
Is this when they're
sportsman.
Are they at Moran at this
No,
point?
they're still at Adams.
Yeah, okay.
So Socal ran the S's, and then Tri-C would run the sweeper in the back.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So you're still there, but you're running at 2 different clubs.
Yep, 2 different clubs. And then the only difference is the junior sportsman was 280 pounds, 3-hole can on the Yamaha, and the junior Superbox was 300 pounds with the 4-hole can.
Gotcha.
And so that was almost a second faster.
Oh, wow.
And for, a little kid, you're like, yeah, dude, I want to go race Tri-C every weekend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I remember we had a lot of fun doing that, and that was when I started doing well.
Do you remember, you said it was you started kind of clicking there. Do you remember what maybe the turning point was for you there as a junior, where you went from kind of so-so to getting after it?
After 2000, the fast kids all moved up to senior.
Okay.
And I finished second in that championship to Darren Hagen.
This is in 2000?
In 2000, because I think Harris missed a few races for.
And that was your first year juniors?
That was my first year in junior. And
okay.
I just ran all the races. I would finish, between 3rd and 5th, depending on who showed up.
Consistent,
and just consistent. That's always been kind of my deal, is consistent. I didn't have to win all the races, but I would
just beat towards the sharp end.
Yeah, I would run near the front and end up well. So I get second that year, and then the next year, all the fast kids move out, and then all my buddies and I, we're all the same speed now.
Yeah.
All racing at the front of junior.
That's cool.
My one of my still good friends, Greg Turner, he had started racing about then, and he was really fast. And then Joey was really fast, and then there was a few other kids, Cameron Weeks, and Lindsey Kernahan was racing, and.
So you went from a couple of guys to
all of a sudden
field.
There's about 8 of us that are all the same speed, and depending on who drove good and who practiced and who decided to buy tires that month, or, whatever, we all had a good chance at getting in the podium. A couple of the kids obviously had a better chance of winning than the others, but we were all pretty close. Yeah, you'd go look, and the top 10 would be within a couple tenths at Adams.
Man, that's
were
awesome.
you were still out of the back of the pickup with the pops, or were you kind of aligned with
At that time, I think we had just gotten the box van, and so my dad, in ever his fashion, he came upon some boat racer's box van that wasn't running and needed like a distributor cap or something stupid, right? And he goes over and buys the thing for, a couple $100 or $1,000 or whatever, because it's broke down, and he spends $20 in parts and drives the thing away.
Man.
He did, yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
so we get this box van, and
That's luxury in 2000. That's
nice.
Yeah,
dude. There was a few guys with box
you guys
vans.
are a big
I remember
team.
Ryan Charteau's dad, Ron, he had a box van, and Matt's dad, Mike, and his brother Bill, and they would all show up in the big long trailer. And like there's a few people that would show up in vans and little trailers, but yeah, I'd say easily 60 to 70% was just guys out of the back of their truck.
Yeah.
To
have anything enclosed was pretty
a luxury.
Yeah.
It was rad.
That's how I felt
half
like
the pit we're using trash cans is when I started half the pit we're using trash cans as cart stands.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's come such a long way.
So you now, like with you and your friends and everybody you're racing with, good.
That's when we really started getting good. And I remember I got really lucky. Like I said, I had that really small tube go-kart. The first race of that season of 2001. 2001. We're sitting on the grid for the final at the January Socal race, and it starts raining as we're sitting on the grid, just sprinkling just a little bit. And all the dads kind of look at each other. The race is ending before us, and they're all just like, screw it, send the kids out. We don't even care at this point. All these dads are probably, 8 to 10 beers into their day. Like, because it's the sun had just gone down. It's dark. They're like, we're over it. We're not going to put rain tires on for these kids. Get out of here. Get out there. And so I had the thinnest wall. I had the smallest tubing go-kart. And so my thing was like 6/10 faster than it. Oh, it was just gone. Yeah. My dad was like, don't spin. If it rains, do not spin out. He's like, just don't spin out and just keep it on the track and keep it off the line. He gave me the few rain tips, stay out of the rubber here and here and, go find the grip.
Where did you start roughly?
I want to say I started like mid-pack, not necessarily near the front.
Yeah.
But
and you
kids are spinning out.
This is your first
I
win?
had never won anything. Yeah, I'd maybe finished third at the best by then. And so, we're just cruising around, and all of a sudden I'm like, dude, this thing is really good. Like, these other kids are in my way.
Yeah.
My buddy Greg spins out, and he was as fast as me. He was almost as fast as me because he was the best driver at the time. And I think he just happened to spin out once or twice or something, and I got by him, and my thing was just a little bit better than him, and I ended up getting the win that month. And then the next month the same thing happened, but we had time to put rain tires on, and I think I don't think he spun out, and I spun out like once, and I got second or something. But that was the moment where it was like,
oh wow,
we're doing something now.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to win and run up front, and you're getting in tech, and you're getting high fives from everybody. And
well,
you're like,
and
okay, we gotta do something now.
And in those situations too, like the amount of like car control that you are forced to learn in the situation.
Yeah.
So you go from being in the game to
I had never
winning.
raced in the rain before, but I had, like I said, practiced it here and there
on.
because the sprinklers were on. So that's exactly what my dad said. He's all, the track's gonna be slick. You know what to do. Just go drive. Don't spin out.
2001, a light switch is basically flipped on, and your confidence just got to get big.
I still didn't win a lot of races, but we were running at the sharp end of the field, and we were competitive. I'd win here or there, if everything lined up and I was, doing good. Towards the end of the year, I think I started running up front and winning a little more. The next year, definitely, won my fair share of the races.
Yeah.
I think
We're still just doing the local stuff?
Still just SoCal and Tri-C. I think I only ran for the SoCal Championship because I only ran SoCal Championship, and I kept getting second. Kept getting second, and I moved up to senior, and then we did all right then.
So you end up getting the second place championship, and doing well in the rain and getting some W's. You've established yourself as one of the better junior drivers at Adams for sure at that point.
Yeah, I hadn't really ventured out too much. We would go run Paris once in a while. We'd go run a club race there or whatever, but we never ran any of the IKF stuff.
Not even when it came to town?
Not even when it came to town.
Really?
No, I would just go watch. I remember I think the first California State Championships I did was the year I think it was 2000 at the end of the year. Yeah. That was the after Thanksgiving race, that was
if I
the
remember
Thanksgiving.
right.
Yeah, it was you would go to Thanksgiving dinner with your family, and then you would haul butt out of there and drag everything to the track Thursday night, and we would have a second little barbecue at the track, setting up for the race weekend.
That's neat.
And I remember doing that for a while. That was like, they ran that race for I think 50 years or something.
Yeah, I heard it was a long
40 something years.
Yeah,
I have a couple of those. I want to say, it was like 48 years for the one that I have at home.
Wow.
And so I remember.
Did you do that as a munchkin, or you do that later?
I did that as I was 13. So that was November 2000. So I was 13. That was the first year I ran against all of the kids that ran IKF, and it was like,
wow,
holy moly, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then
because you'd get like one or two on occasion, but not a field of them.
Yeah. And then the next year we ran it, I was a little better, but still not. Compared to those kids, I was not quite there. Like, you see the club kids that are good compared to the guys that run Pro Tour and stuff. That
Absolutely.
They're not bad, but, it's just seat time and whatnot. And so I'm running mid-pack, and I remember one of the races, it started sprinkling just a little bit. And for whatever, just for a second, or it was cold or slick or whatever happened in the last turn, like the top 8 drove it into the hay bales. And all of a sudden, it was like me and my buddies that were running for 12th. All of a sudden, we were like, yo, we're running for 5th now. What is life?
That's awesome.
All these mid-pack club locals, all of a sudden, we're fighting for a trophy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so, just stuff like that. And I remember same thing the next year. Just all club stuff in 2002 and doing better. And then the same thing at the Cal State Championships. We had bad luck and had to start at the back, and everybody crashed in the first turn. And me and my buddy Greg, my buddy Greg and I that had to start at the back, we went from like 30th to 2nd and 3rd or something.
Get out of
here. Yeah, because they all crashed in the first turn. We were just like, we were going down the short straightaway looking at each other like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I
love those
Yeah, we were like, yo.
I love those moments. You look over at the other guy, you can see his expression through the helmet.
Yeah, you're both just having that, all right.
Yeah. I remember a couple of moments in the 206 thing. Derek and I would try to link up quite a bit, but there'd be like something weird would happen. And I remember looking over him and a couple, we were just kind of like shrugging our shoulders like, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love doing that. That's one of my favorite things about racing and racing with friends is, you kind of know what everybody's thinking and stuff. Like when I'm racing with Freck or Matt or, you guys or whatever, you kind of look at each other, you're like, meh. Yeah.
And
I might have just messed you a little bit. I might have just dicked you, but whatever.
I remember
the practice days on Friday from Tri-C were a blast in those 206s, man.
Well, because they're so boring to practice by themselves. So, like, that's what I always tell people, the 206 is the most fun racing I've ever had, but it's the most boring thing to go practice by yourself.
Yeah,
so all of a sudden you show up on Friday and all your guys that you're racing with are there, and you're like, yo, let's go get a 10-car pack together and race for a little bit and see what we actually have.
I've told it before. There was a couple of times where I'm like getting ready for the championship or whatever, racing that day, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I don't need to run. And I see all you guys go by, and I'm like, nah, piss on it. I'm going one more time.
Yeah, that looks fun.
I remember, I think it was 17. I might have been a race that you were there too, Derek, but race bicycles coming out of Long Beach and like exits like super early, and then like the car sits down, but he checks everyone up, and he was like second at that time, and we all split him. And he has this big bicycle, lands, starts looking around, and I'm leaning forward in the seat just laughing at him. But that's the funniest part, dude, is the 206 is so slow. You got time to stop and laugh
at each other. Yeah, you got totally. Guy makes a big mistake, and you're driving by him just giggling.
Yeah. Because you could tell he shut himself for a second.
He puts his head down. He's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
There's a couple of times where that happened. Like somebody will make a mistake. You go by him and you look back. Like I know Cameron Jocelyn did this once. And I go by him and I look back and he just kind of reaches out like,
I loved racing. Yeah, I loved racing with Cameron because we would always waving at each other and stuff. He's like, just go. You knew when he was, I'd catch him or something from way back because he's huge. He gives me this big old draft.
Yeah.
He's just like, just go. And he puts his little hand to the side.
But then you get up
super
there, now
polite.
you can go racing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you go from the juniors, going back to you kind of moving up the ladder a little bit here in karting, and things have clicked pretty good in juniors, you move to seniors, and now you're with everybody. Are you still leaving it in SoCal?
It was still pretty kind of the same group. So most of the kids that I was racing with, they went on to race like IKF and stuff, and we just couldn't really afford to go race the whole series. So we would just stick to SoCal, Tri-C, and do the do the Cal States and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we would hit one-off fun races. Like at that time, I think in 2003 they did the first King Taco race.
Oh, cool.
At Enfield, and I did
Here
that.
at Auto Club, yeah.
Yeah. And so we just did stuff like that. It was kind of like, you got to make a decision, this is going to cost us this much, or this is going to cost us this much, and we can reliably do this all season, or we might be able to race IKF.
And was your dad running the entire time too, still?
No, he was just working for me.
Okay.
And then
when you started racing, did he kind of taper it down, or how'd that go?
Yeah, so he pretty much stopped racing right after, I want to say, like 96, 97.
After he got that first win, he's like, all right, now I can invest.
Yeah,
in
he Derek's
the future.
yeah,
yeah, he kind of wanted to just hang out and drink beers and talk, racing shit with his buddies.
Yeah.
With Mike and whatnot,
and kind of enjoy it through you a little bit.
Yeah, and which is totally understandable, because that's where I would love to be able to do that someday. I totally understand that now. And so, yeah, he tapered off his racing. He would go drive once in a while, but he stopped racing and just started helping me a lot. And he taught me a lot. He taught me how to rebuild everything. Like, he showed me how to take stuff apart and put it together, brakes, engine, whatever. I know how.
That's where you get a lot of the knowledge, the baseline knowledge out of him.
He showed me how to align. He was a front end wheel and alignment guy for the Discount Tire he worked at, and there's a race, the Porsche race car shop down the street would take all of their Porsches over there for him to do it.
Oh, wow.
Because he would do a good job of it, and the tire guys that all did, they would have them mount the tires because they wouldn't mess up the racing rims. They'd do a good job of mounting all their race tires without messing up any of the rims.
Gotcha.
And so he's just one of those guys. He loved racing his whole life. My grandpa raced when he was a kid. He raced race sprint cars and stuff with, the likes of AJ Foyt and those guys.
Wow.
With Troy Ruttman and, all those old school dudes. I got black and white pictures and all kinds of cool stuff from my grandpa racing.
That's cool.
So it's just through the family. That's just what we do. I grew up watching Formula One with the Senna Prost battles.
Yep.
When I was a little kid. Yeah. And then I don't know if you guys remember, but in the mid 90s and late 90s, they would do F1 Decade.
Yes.
So
on Speed World or whatever.
Yeah, I'd get up to watch. Was it right before the race or after? I think it was before they'd show the live Grand Prix.
I think so. Yeah.
Because I'd get up and you'd watch. It was the same race so if they're running the Italian Grand Prix, it was 10 years prior Italian Grand Prix.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I got to
that was cool.
At first I was seeing stuff that I'd never seen. In the early 90s, I was a little kid watching this stuff. I was like, man, this is stuff I'd never seen before from the early 80s.
Right.
And then as I was watching the Michael Schumacher late 90s, I'm re-watching stuff that I watched as a baby. I'm watching the early 90s Senna stuff, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm watching 88, 89. I'm like, man, this is cool.
Yeah.
And I'm so bummed that they don't do that anymore.
Oh,
it wouldn't be I don't know if it'd be as good now as it was then, but it was.
We're 10 years now, yeah.
I just remember watching that then, like, man, that was so cool.
Yeah.
Because you'd get to watch the old cars, and then the live race would come on, and you'd go watch Michael Schumacher drive up 40 seconds into the distance.
Yeah.
Great race.
Yeah,
right.
Seventh championship in a row or whatever.
But so it's just a family of racing. That's all we did. Like we would watch the Super Bowl, and my dad would watch the World Series and stuff.
But racing was
he respected all sports. He liked tennis and stuff. He liked golf and all that other stuff. But we were racing. That's what we did. We go to sprint car races. We go to flat track races. We go wherever, whenever. It's just all racing.
But he makes a switch, and he goes to, I'm just going to tune for Derek, and it'd be father-son deal, and then...
He taught me a lot, and so he, at the time, what he was doing is he would work at the tire shop, and then he had I think Monday, he had weird days off. He had like Monday, Tuesday or something, and he would negotiate the Saturdays for me to go race.
Ah, okay.
And on those Mondays and Tuesdays, he would go work for Jim Barry.
Neat.
To offset building my engines.
Gotcha.
And he would go help Jim. And I remember being as a little kid driving down to El Segundo and helping him deburr motor mount bricks and putting parts through the Burr King and I must have laser engraved, a couple hundred LO206 style motor mounts when I was a kid. And all kinds of cool stuff,
Man.
And so that's where I learned all my mechanical stuff through doing stuff like that. I'd go hang out there, and Jim would give me a bunch of stuff to do, and then I'd go sit there after I was done. I'd go sit there and watch him rebuild engines and stuff, and he'd give me little tidbits here and just show me how stuff worked.
Man, that's cool.
Then same thing at the house. My dad would get home from work, and he had the little man cave shed built, and we'd sit there and just tinker on stuff. Oh, your bike's broken? Okay, well, let's fix it.
Right.
Oh, this is broken? Okay, let's do that. And so we just fix everything.
That's
what
awesome.
You need something fixed here, we fix it.
That's awesome.
It's no problem.
Well, and obviously it's paid dividends now as a mechanic and stuff like that. And you've been racing now for a while, and you start getting into the 2000s, and you start doing the one-off races and things like that.
Yes. So,
do you ever go like regional or do anything?
So what happened was I raced. I did the Socal Championship in 2003, and I ended up winning it in Senior Superbox.
And that was your first championship.
That was my first championship I ever won, and I was like so happy. And then that was the first year they stopped giving out the giant trophies, though, which I was bummed about, because when I was a kid, like the BMX style 6 foot tall trophies, they used to give those out. So you get your championship jacket, and then as a 4 foot tall kid, you got this 5 foot tall trophy, and you're like, yeah, I'm the man. Well, the year I win my first championship, they go to the little crystal trophy, which is still cool now.
Now, as you're older.
Now I'm like stoked that I have it, because it's still sitting at my mom's. I just put some new batteries in it, and it lights up, and it's cool.
Well, and that's why they went to those things.
I was bummed.
Yeah.
At the time, I was so bummed.
I think your mom's stoked she doesn't have to deal with that 5 foot trophy at her house.
It would have been trashed by now.
Oh yeah,
something like that. I have boxes of stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's
actually creating his own trophies. He's like got all the little pieces. He's like, I'm making my own damn 6 foot
shrine.
trophy.
You know what I started doing is I've taken anything that was tall that I really cared about. I've taken a piece of it that has the plaque on it, whether it's the bottom or the middle or wherever it says the date and first or whatever. Right. I take that piece, and then I take the top off of it, and I take the little date. I take the little, the little things.
Yeah.
I make it into a small condensed version.
Oh, there you go.
And so, like, I have a couple of those laying around where it was, I remember that day. It may just be a Tri-C trophy from Paris, but
there's a memory
Johnny
attached.
Johnny Z came out that day, and we raced the entire race side by side, just
100%.
back and forth, stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's what those the trophies are all about to me. Is like I've thrown away most of the trophies that I've gotten that are just a second or third or this or that or whatever. But I have like oh God, I can't remember what the hell position it was. But it was not at the front. Yeah. But the memory I had from that deal, that's why I keep the trophy, just because I look at it and go, oh, man, I remember that day. Like, I may not remember that day at all, but if I look at the trophy, which actually everything's in a storage thing right now, but you're like, oh, that was the coolest fight I
have a little bronze go-kart I can think of right now. It's sitting on my fireplace at home, and it's from X-Karts or something. I forget who ran it. It was just a little speedway thing. It was the local speedway thing in Vegas, and we ran
X-Plex?
No. That was the old track, but it was just the club. It's whoever ran the club thing.
Oh, man.
But it was at the speedway, and it was on the bumpy concrete track, and it was the only reason we were there because it was the weekend before IKF or whatever. But me and my buddies, we towed the trailer up there and had a great time by ourselves,
awesome.
and partied at the speedway and camped in the trailer and all this stuff. And it was just a stupid club race.
Yeah.
But I still got that little bronze guy because it reminds me of it. And it's
absolutely.
It's a cool little trophy. If it was a regular whatever shitter, I'd toss it.
Yeah. But
that little bronze guy, he's sitting there like this, and I'm like, that was a good day.
Yeah.
That was a fun week.
I think that's what a lot of the stuff is. Like
just testing. It was just a testing week, but
it ended up being something cool.
But the memory of it is so much sweeter.
Yeah.
We actually were just doing the podcast with Mark Call not too long ago, and like he had mentioned one of the things that he likes the most. It's the bench racing after. You had the racing, so it's great, but it's the people and the things that you learn and the community and the after hours bullshit sessions.
That's the whole deal.
Memories.
Like I was thinking, because I live up in Crestline on the mountain. It takes me like 30 minutes to come down here. So if I'm going to come down the hill, I'm going to go do something else. When I'm done here, I'll probably shoot over to Mike Johnson's shop and just hang out. And Matt will probably stop by, or Steven, and we'll all just be sitting there hanging out and get lunch and bullshit for a few hours.
Yeah. Reminisce.
Just because we got nothing better to do. And it's fun. It's more fun than anything else I could be doing on a Monday.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe going back and kind of putting a point on the senior stuff that you're doing. You win that championship.
Then I started, I won that championship, and then that's actually when I got hooked up with Seth and Terry.
Oh.
Was at the time one of my best friends and like brother to me, Chris Hatfield, was racing for him at the time. And he had been doing all the traveling stuff with Chris Hatfield and Chris Freckleton. They were racing all the senior classes for Terry and Seth. And
this is 2004?
This is in 2000. They did it in 2001 and 2002, 2003. They ran like a few years of IKF altogether. They did all the traveling stuff. And
Freck and Hattie
were racing for Terry and Seth.
And Seth was racing as well, doing the.
Seth was racing here and there, but he was mostly doing the wrenching stuff. He would race his shifter class. He would race like ICC and stuff. But he was mostly that was the point where he was transitioning to being the full-time mechanic and shop guy more. He was He was going and working for the Clark family in Nevada for when the Pat Clark wanted to race, and he would go teach other kids, and that was when he was doing his transition out of racing into full-time as a business owner.
Gotcha.
He was learning how to run a race team.
Gotcha.
And so I was kind of looking for a direction and what to do as far as racing, and Hatfield had told Terry, hey, this kid's good. He can do anything I can do, if not more. That's his exact words he told me. He just needs the opportunity to go drive.
How old were you, roughly?
That was at the end of 2003. So 16.
Right.
So the only unfortunate thing was Terry wanted a junior driver. And I was like, sorry, I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
And
the size of a junior driver.
Yeah, I'm still the size of a junior driver. To this day, I'm only a little overweight. I can go practice with your kid. No problem.
So it makes you so valuable.
Yeah. I was actually just having this talk with Seth's son, Blake, the other day. He is that kid now.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's right.
And I told him he needs to be doing that.
Yeah.
Because that's
perfect.
The deal. That's how I learned a lot too, doing that, because I could do my testing and I'm getting my laps in and I'm doing, the repetitive driving, but I'm doing driver coaching.
You learn a lot as a coach.
Yeah, you learn a little as a coach because you're teaching the kid, but you're also doing a lot of laps. So just the repetitive nature of doing laps. Seat time is seat time.
And Derek and I have said it multiple times. Doing stuff like that, it makes it really hard to get complacent behind the wheel.
Yeah, and
it's easy to stay sharp.
Yeah, and so I was really valuable to Seth and Terry because I could do that with the junior kids.
So you're not a junior driver, but you end up getting involved because you can do coaching for the juniors?
Yeah, because I'm still pretty light and I'm good, and I live locally, and I would go to the shop. I would go to the shop and just hang out with Chris because he was my best friend at the time.
Gotcha.
And so I would get out of school and I'd ride my skateboard over there and just go help Chris work on his go-karts.
Gotcha.
And so they see that and they're like, we like this kid, let's help him out.
Okay.
And so they help me out, and I run the Cal State Championships that year, I think in 2003. That was the first year it wasn't at Adams. That was the year it moved to Moran. And they gave me a Margay from Robbie Mott to use, and I ran that. And I tried to run it in HPV, and I didn't like it because it was just a little too soft for HPV, but it was a great Yamaha kart. So I ran Yamaha, and I ran decent. I think I had the chance to win. I think I almost won senior sportsman. And then I don't remember what happened in Superbox. I think it was a pro race that weekend, so all the hitters were in Supercan, and I didn't stand a chance. I was a noob. I was a noob on the scene, and I deservingly so did not stand a chance.
Well, and
I remember
you hadn't.
That was my first time I raced Matt Johnson, and I did put him off the track in the corkscrew at Moran.
You're good, buddy.
That was
like a brother.
Yeah, that was the first opportunity we ever drove together under racing conditions.
Interesting.
And
how did that go after the race was done?
He gave me some shit. Well, it was just in practice.
Oh, okay.
We were just messing around, and I had to give him the boot, that I'm here, the old hello, I'm not here to take any shit from you. You know you're my older brother. And he gave me a bunch of shit after that, but it's all good. You live, you learn.
Yeah.
So you're doing the senior thing, but like you said, first time it had been over to Moran, you hadn't been doing regional or stuff like that yet,
no,
right?
Not at all. I had been going with Chris that year. So that year I was racing Socal in 2003 for the championship. I was going to all the IKF races as Hatfield's mechanic.
So you're kind of soaking it up.
I was soaking up all the information I could from Seth and from Terry and from Chris as a driver, because Chris was one of, still to this day, one of the best. Throw him out there in a go-kart, never knowing what he was doing, and he took to water like a duck, dude.
Yeah.
He was he was a second or two off on the first day.
Wow.
It was insane.
And this is the same year you get the championship, right?
Yeah, and so
I think a lot of that.
For sure, because they helped me a lot. They would come. Freck and Hatfield would come over after work. They'd stop by my dad's house and have a few beers and bench race with my dad, and they would help me tune my kart up a little bit. Hey, they talked to me about whatever it did at the last race, and we'd make some adjustments before going to the track, whether it was try a different seat or different seat position, or hey, we got these camber pills, put these caster camber pills in there because they're a little different than the ones you got, or whatever, whatever it was, they'd give me whatever they could to try and help me. And then so that ended up, I just would soak it all up. And then so I traveled with Hatfield to all those IKF races, learn all that stuff. And then the next year, Terry's like, we're going to go do that. If you want to do that, we'll go do that. And Terry, I think Terry did all my entries and all my tires or something. And I just had to get there and have a place to stay or something. I think that was all I had to do.
So your first opportunity to kind of branch out, aside from doing a singular, a one-off event, you do the regional deal in 2004.
That was the first time I got to branch out with a team. Before that, I got to work with David Dotson and his dad.
Okay.
Probably from I want to say they took me under their wing 2001. When I was racing against Greg and I beat him at that one rain race, they kind of noticed me.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, he's got potential. He got lucky on this one, but he's got some potential. So they started working with me, and I would go out to Adams with them on Wednesdays and stuff after school, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever middle of the week they could make it out there. And they would bring either Greg or David's cart. They would bring Greg's cart for me or something, and it was a direct drive Yamaha 3-hole. So it was junior sportsman with no clutch, and you cannot make a mistake in that car. Because if you bobble just a little bit, it doesn't have the exhaust is so restricted, it takes forever to recover. It drives like a 206 for about a half of a lap at Adams Kart Track.
Gotcha.
And
so it forced you to learn how to be smooth and stuff like that.
That's where I really learned how to be smooth and cut my teeth on that stuff, was working with David and Danny on that, because David had raced in Europe a lot. Maybe not.
Yeah,
I don't know if he raced there a lot, but he had a lot of experience with the factory CRG guys, and he got a lot of knowledge from them. And Danny used to tell me about a lot of their trips, and they spent a lot of time over there. And he did a handful of races, and he would run all the Formula A stuff here. And David is a really good driver.
That's what we heard.
Yeah, David is a really good driver. I'd love to see him go out and drive again, even though he hasn't been out in a while. He's in good shape. I'm sure he'd be all right. I loved watching him race when I was a kid and teenager. I think before Tri-C went to Moran, or maybe after they'd gone to Moran, they were still running at Apex too, here and there. Because I remember going out with the Dodsons to work at Apex, and David would run HPV. At that point, he was like probably 20.
Yeah.
And so he was doing the lead follow role with the junior kids, and I was just going out there helping. I was doing a little lead follow with some of the new cadet kids.
Yeah.
And
this is when you're a junior.
This is when I was a junior. Yeah, I was junior too. So this was 2001, 2002.
Stepping it back a smidge.
Yeah. And so we would go out there, and David's a great driver in his own respect. He went and did all the European stuff, and then we'd get to watch him race at Apex, and he was one of the guys on the old Apex track. You would come down the straightaway. It was along the road that goes up to Lake Paris, and so it runs parallel, and it comes down, and it would come down to a flat 180 left, and he would come down at full speed in his HPV, and he would jump on the brakes, and he would choke the airbox, and he would point the car at the street at like a 45-degree angle.
Like the wrong way?
Going right. He's pointing right at Lake Paris Drive or whatever, where there's now a housing track, and he's choking his airbox, and then he gets off the brakes, takes his hand off the airbox, grabs the wheel, and goes left around the 180.
Like a Scandi flick.
And it's smooth transition.
And at 12 years old, that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I'd seen pictures of it in a Go Racing magazine from the European stuff, where I'd seen European pictures
like
of
the direct drive stuff,
I'd seen a few guys, Bill Cleveland, and I'd seen Pat Long and Phil Giebler, the guys that got the European experience. You'd see them do that once in a while, but like I can picture it clear as day in my mind right now, David doing that. And so just going out and doing a bunch of laps with him taught me a lot of car control. He would teach me, you'd go through the chicane there on the old track, and they used to have barriers that lined it. And he was like, well, they're not going to come out there and fix the barrier in the middle of the race. So just barely kiss it each lap, and by halfway through the race, your track's almost 2 inches wider, 3 inches wider. You're straight lining that chicane at that point.
Yeah.
And so just little things like that, little mental things. He taught me more about the mental side of thinking about stuff while I'm driving than I would say anybody has. David was a big Senna fan, big Ayrton Senna fan, and so am I. And so like we connected on that, and he just, he would give me little homework projects reading this Ayrton Senna Principles of Race Driving book.
It's interesting that you bring that up because with the way you're talking about David going in the corner, I think back to the episode we did with Diego Morales, and he's literally in Brazil watching a race where Senna's in a cart.
Yeah.
And watch him go and how he entered the corner. And I can't remember how old he was, junior too, I think.
Yeah.
And he goes, "That is the coolest thing
I've ever seen." Just talking about that with our cadets and our junior driver, Xander Gonzalez, this weekend, is I went out and I did a couple of laps with him. And I was like, he's obviously small, so the cart's set up for him where it's not quite optimal on the seat position and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the big difference between him and I is I'm using my feet to steer the car as much as I'm using my hands. I'm barely turning the wheel, but when I jump on the brakes, I make the thing rotate a little bit, so I don't have to turn quite as much on the entry. And so those are the little things, that were
footwork. Yeah.
You drive. I like to tell people, like, I run a slightly bigger seat than I probably should compared to most people because I ride the go-kart as much as you drive it. Like your movement, like before I go left, I cock my body just a little bit and just a little bit. I don't like to be snug tight in the seat, super, super tight.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
I've actually gone the other
My
way.
dad taught me that when I was a little kid. He was like, this go-kart is like the connection you have with the wheel and your body and your feet and all the inputs you do with how you move and everything completely controls everything. Your go-kart could handle just a little bit weird, but if you change how you're pushing on the wheel, pushing on your heels, flexing your butt in the seat a little bit, you can change how a cart handles.
You manipulate it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know people that are well bigger than me that don't even have to turn through a chicane. They can just pick up the side of the cart.
Yeah.
They just lean a little bit and it turns because they unload the weight.
I do.
That's all it is.
I do a lot of that in the arrive and drive stuff because the seats are ginormous.
Yeah.
So you'll sit up against the other side, and you can feel it as you come out and say, we're on classical counterclockwise right now. So as you come out of Contino, there's a curb on the right as you follow it. You can tell the difference. If you sit normal and go over the curb, right on the crest, and it's like, dot, dot, dot. If I lean left,
and just get the weight off of it.
Yeah. It just floats like you're not even on it.
Those are the little things that you only get with experience and stuff, and that the weekend before or last weekend when I ran Tri-C, the kids that I was racing against, they don't have nearly as much experience as I do at Adams, and they're
got the toolbox.
Yeah, the one kid's like, "Oh, we're just trying to keep up with you," and I'm like, I don't mean to be like cocky or anything, but like, I got 40 or 50,000 laps around this track. You can go shut the lights off right now, and we're not going much slower. Like, I'm totally willing to help you, but it's just a lot to learn, and it's just stuff you pick up.
You got the little nuances,
like you said, the toolbox. I go to a track, and I'm like, oh yeah, we go to Paris, and I could think of I could describe a lap, Paris or at Adams or even here, and I don't have that much experience here, but I know this track pretty well with all the racing we've done here.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not only that, right? What you can do too is, and I mean, people have said it on the show before, and I can't remember who, but it was you may not have been to a particular track, and this kind of goes back to, and this is going to segue into your regional stuff really well, when you start traveling around more. So you may know Adams really well or Apex or what have you. So you look at those particular kinds of corners.
That's why racing at Adams and Apex was so crucial.
Yeah.
For
you can apply it to the
what
new place.
Everybody told me as a kid is, you're going to hate racing Adams all the time because it's a really tough track, but the minute you leave and go anywhere else, you're going to go, oh, these tracks are easy.
Yep. And I remember the same thing said about Pat's Acres, where if you can win there, if you could do well at Pat's Acres, you go anywhere.
That's what I was just going to say. There's a lot of other tracks like that in other parts of the country. You have Pat's Acres, and in the East Coast, in the Midwest, there's technical gnarly tracks just like Adams, where if you go run a bunch of laps and you just dedicate it. Heck, I know in Australia there's one, I forget the name of it, but I follow David Serra on Facebook, and if you follow his deal, he's always promoting going to that one shitty track that he loves, because he knows if you go do good there, it produces the results every time.
If you can build the foundation underneath
exactly.
you, and you can, like you said, hey, maybe I don't have as many laps here at CalSpeed, but I was already pretty good at CalSpeed because I took what I knew from Adams or Apex or whatever, and you were able to make it happen.
That's what I like to teach the kids. That's what separates, the fast kids from the slow kids when you go to the different tracks, is how deep into your toolbox and how fast you can get into it. You go, oh, okay, this corner's like this corner, that corner's like this corner. And without even necessarily being on other corners that are like it, just being able to kind of understand what's going on a little bit because you've been somewhere that was similar to it. Yeah. That's all it is. And like
it gives you different perspective on stuff too.
Yeah.
Just
that too. I do find myself a lot of times running a different line than other people. Like when I would race you guys here, I would run a slightly different line in a couple corners.
Yep.
Right. And it may have been a little faster, it may have been a little slower, but it was just what I did because it was what it was.
Yeah. And the other thing too is having that the ability to try those things. Like, all right, this is where I think I should be. Well, what is this one like? Yeah. And go try things out or play around a little bit. I think that's one of the things that when you talk about like the toolbox and things that you would know and what you could apply, that is what going to other tracks and other things really gets you. And like I said, it's kind of segueing back to your regional deal. So you get the opportunity with Terry and Seth to go do regional for the first time and we apply the things that you now know as a champion.
Yeah, we load up the van and we get tossed into the IKF regional race at Xplex for the first time. Like here you go.
And you'd never been there before?
Never been there. I didn't even go with Chris to the race the year before, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I went there the year before and worked.
So it's all new.
I had only seen it driving by going into Vegas with my family as a kid a few times. And
here we go. We're going regional racing.
Here we go. We're running.
And regional racing, it's kind of like a national back then.
Back then, Region 7, there was 40 cars in senior super box. Wow. And there was probably 30 cars in each of the HPV classes. And then I ran what was called novice sportsman. And so technically I was a novice because I had never run IKF, and that was the only reason I could run it.
Right.
But that was the case with everybody that ran it. I was racing against a guy named Chad Goldberg. Same thing. He was the NorCal. He raced in NorCal and he was the club guy there. Yeah. And then this was his first year running IKF, so boom, we could run novice sportsman.
You guys are champions in your own right, or what
exactly.
have you. It's not like you're FNGs, but
yeah,
you've
exactly.
never done IKF.
We were both pretty good. And so we had our own little class, and I want to say there was a good 20 of us that could race novice sportsman, and there was a solid half the field was pretty decent. I think Travis was even allowed to race once because he was technically Irving was allowed to race, I think, one time because he was technically a novice because he hadn't run senior at IKF or something. Oh. Like the rules were weird.
Yeah.
I think that was like I think that was the rule. You couldn't have run a
Zim's
senior.
over here going, no, bullshit. I bought that go.
Bro, I'm telling you. Yeah, he showed up to race. He showed up and ran at what do you call it? At Vegas Speed. You'd have to I'd have to ask him to confirm, but I think he raced at the Speedway to try and help Chad win. Because they were on the Top Kart program. Mm-hmm. We'd have to ask Travis, but I think they let him race because of that. That was like the only rule.
There was like
that was the rule.
Loophole there.
Yeah. No, that was the rule. Is you just couldn't have run senior at IKF, and he had only run junior up until then, and then he went off running cars and Europe stuff well before he ran any senior races.
Oh man,
I think that I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. My memory is a little foggy, obviously, but I think that happened because I remember racing Travis and exactly being like, why are you racing, bro? Yeah. Because I know it wasn't just in Superbox because Matt won every race in SuperCan that year except for the Xplex race.
Johnson?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we show up to Xplex. We race Novice Sportsman and Senior Superbox, and we raced for the win in Novice.
But they allowed you to do that, a Novice category and a Standard.
Because I would consider today. I would still consider myself a novice at that point for that class
IKF,
and that series.
They didn't have a problem.
The deal. Yeah. No, that was the deal back then.
Sounds like they didn't have a problem with a lot of stuff though.
At the time, at the time, I was kind of like,
Travis Irving.
Yeah, at the time, I kind of questioned, should I be running novice because I was doing a lot of racing locally with like Hatfield and Freckleton and stuff, and I didn't really consider myself a novice, even though now I would.
Sure.
Looking back on it now, I totally would.
I think if you're doing regional for the first time,
totally,
yes.
Yeah, and yeah,
you get that quote rookie season.
Sure, yeah, no, for sure, and yeah, at the time, my big-headed, 18, 17-year-old self. I'm like, I'm not a novice. But yeah, so we run that. We run up front, race for the win, get docked for rough driving, and it's one of those calls where even the guy that won the race was like, "Man, you won that race, bro."
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
So you win, but you get second.
Get second because the race director didn't like me very much for whatever reason.
But you know what? Maybe this is a good time to ask you. What is the black sheep racing?
So
thing?
that was my uncle and his best friend John Stroop.
Okay.
They would come in the bed of their trucks and race at Socal and stuff. And then when I was a teenager, that was our little like clique, our little, you know, it was my uncle and Johnny and me. And that was our little clique at the track.
Black sheep.
Yeah. And
we had
a little flag. I'd climb up the pole first thing in the morning, like 6 a.m. and I'd climb all the way up and I'd hang the American flag and the little black sheep flag. And then that was cool. And that was our little club racing jam.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. And obviously, if you're going to go ahead and wreck people for the win over here, Derek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well, and so that leads to Sunday racing Superbox.
Oh, that's right. Because back in the IKF days, you'd race one thing on Saturday,
one thing the next.
Yeah.
Take off 10 pounds, put a faster exhaust on for Sunday, and I think at that time you had to switch from you had to run a wet clutch in Superbox.
Okay.
And so switch to that, and
I'm still your first regional.
This is still my first regional race, yeah. But I'm doing
you damn near won that. Well, you did win.
I did,
right?
but I was only racing, a handful of good guys, and then the rest were mid-packer, whatever. They were like club guys, and then doing the same deal, but not quite. They're doing the same thing, getting their first regional. They were running their local regional. That was like the class for the locals to go run.
Yeah.
That don't run the regional class, but run Yamaha. They could go run Novice Sportsman. They don't have to race against all the heavy hitters.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that was kind of the deal. Every time we went to a track, we'd go to Buttonwillow, and all the Bakersfield Kart Club guys would be running Novice Sportsman.
Gotcha. So you're not going to run the entire
the really good guy, the really, really good guys, the Chris Wesson and Ricky Luther was good at the time racing, and there was Brian Perry was racing at the time for Pitts.
Okay.
A lot skinnier Ryan Perry.
Wow, he's looking pretty good these days, isn't he?
Yeah. But those guys, ran at the front and dominated their club stuff, and they would run all the regional stuff. But then all the regular guys, they could come run Novice Sportsman, not be so gnarly.
And you can stay in Novice when you're not running the entire series.
I think you could stay in Novice until, I think it was a two-year limit.
Yeah.
And then as long as you didn't win the championship. I think that was something
so
like that.
To your point about those local guys could still come out and run.
It was like so many, and there was also like if you obviously needed to be moved out. Yeah. We ran at Moran one of the IKF races, and I won by like 12 seconds just because that was our spot. Me and Hatfield would go out there a couple days a week and just pound laps.
Yeah.
All day, racing each other all day. We would race around, and I think Francois from DMG was working there at the time. Francois would wave the checkered flag at the pit, right? And that was the cue to race back to the pit. And me and Hattie would race all the way back to the pit, just beating the crap out of each other, bro. Just all the way back to the pit. Winner got to the pit. Winner was the first one to stop at the pit and get out of his cart.
Oh, that's funny.
And so we did that for months before this IKF race. So the IKF race came around, and it was like, if I break the draft, I'm gone. Mm-hmm. And Terry's on the sideline waving at me, slow down, they're going to kick you out of Novice. And so the Novice class was really cool. It was good for the new guys.
How'd that season finish up? Sounds like you were rolling.
I ended up winning the championship in the novice class. It came down to the last race. Travis showed up at the speedway. I won,
trying to help out.
I'm pretty sure we'll confirm
as the alleged story goes.
We will confirm that because this is. I mean, we're talking 16 years ago,
right?
I'm teaching kids
carry the one.
Yeah.
But
Blake,
as you remember,
Blake was 1 year old at this time. I remember a little Blake Wesley.
And you and who are going for the championship?
Me and Chad Goldberg.
Chad Goldberg, that's
the entire season, because half the races are at tracks that I'm pretty good at: Phoenix, Grange, Willow, Xplex, And then we raced at Santa Maria where he's really fast, and Buttonwillow where he's really fast. And so it was a pretty good deal. Like,
nice.
I would go to his tracks. I knew I wasn't going to beat him at Buttonwillow, and I knew I wasn't going to beat him at Santa Maria.
Gotcha.
But when we came to Grange, I was like, this is my house.
Right.
Same thing at Willow, So it was a really good deal. We had good time, and I'm still friends with them to this day. We talk on Facebook here and there, and you guys know how racing works. You have a good year. Even at the time, we were like half enemies,
right?
But then
give it
because
a couple years,
because of it all, now we're really good friends.
Give it a lot of years, you're really close.
No, I mean not even a lot of years. Even just like as the season progressed, it was like we all became friends, and it was like we both wanted to win, but it was cool.
Yeah,
and it was really cool.
Oh yeah, nice, Chad. Yeah, bring in Travis.
Yeah.
But you bring home the championship in this thing.
I got championship in that. But Sunday, that first weekend at Xplex in the regional race, this is actually a good one.
Oh, right.
This is the only final Matt didn't win that year in senior superbox at IKF.
And this is the opener.
This is the opener.
And so he doesn't.
He blows his clutch up,
and he wins everything else.
I think he probably won the heat race or whatever, top 5 in the heat race. He'll tell you exactly what happened because that's how his memory works. All I know is in the heat race for me, I was trying to pass a couple guys for. The track was really gnarly. It went right into a sharp hairpin left, like 3 or 4 rights, and we were coming around the rights, and I was like, I kept passing people going into the left because I had this big old gear, and this lap I was going to pass too because they were so shitty through the double right. And so I was getting the second one. It was the white flag, and I hit the third guy. Just clipped his tire and run him over, go off the track, get back on. I finished like 8th or not. I finished like 10th or whatever.
This is in the heat race.
In the heat race. Mm-hmm. I get docked like 2 rows for rough driving.
Ugh.
All pissed off. Whatever. Okay, whatever. I'm starting like 15th, 13th, 15th. On the inside. And there was a red flag in the cadet race before us because I don't know if it was the comer or the shifter, because the kids would run shifters back then.
ADCs.
They had 60s on the cadets back then.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. There was a crash, red flag. It's late at night we're talking February.
Oh, yeah.
February, Vegas, the sun had just gone down. It's 50 degrees, 40 degrees at the warmest, right?
Yeah.
And so I run back.
High desert, man.
Hey, I run back to the pit. I grab I remember I had a dark blue Hurley sweatshirt. I throw it on over my suit because I'm like, I'd rather look like a noob than freeze my ass off out there in 40 degrees, right? And I was like, I'm probably going to crash in this final anyway.
Yeah. Might as well be comfortable doing it.
We're driving around, and I'm picking people off, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, the green flag comes. I get a big old wind up. I pass 2 rows. I make up my penalty going into the first turn.
Nice.
Pass 2 rows like a dick. Tuck in. I'm passing people. I get up to probably like 8th or so, and we're coming off that hairpin in the middle of the infield, and Matt's clutch decides to let go. And I had noticed Matt was coming back to me. Mm-hmm. He was still in the lead pack racing for the lead with Ryan Perry and I think Chris Gazar and some other people. I can't remember. I just remember they were getting closer and closer, and I'm like, dude, my thing rips. And Matt's clutch decides to let go, and that slows everybody down right in front of me. And I'm like, boom, right on everybody. And the next thing you know, boom, I'm in like 3rd, and boom, I'm in 2nd. And it's just me and Perry going around the track nose to tail. And I'm like, dude, I actually have a chance to win this race. Holy shit, what's going on right now? And
in this Hurley sweatshirt.
In the Hurley sweatshirt. The hood is flapping in the breeze, I'm sure.
This is FNG up here.
Dude, looking like a noob. And it only gets better. So Perry's got the proper gear on. The thing runs down the straightaway. I got like 2 or 3 teeth too many. My thing gives up halfway down the straightaway. So it's just like, I hope nobody's on my ass.
Yeah.
And I just
making a lot of noise, ain't going anywhere.
I pushed him all the way around the infield, all the way down as far as I could up the straightaway to get as big of a lead as we could. And then I'm just holding on for dear life. If I passed him, he'd drive right back around me. So I'm like, my only move, the start finish line's in between the kinks on the straightaway. So it does a double right, comes up probably a short straightaway, a couple 100 feet at the most. And then it kinks, does like 100 feet, and then kinks and comes down the main straightaway. And the start-finish line is in the middle. So I was like, I can win the race to the start-finish line, but I'm not,
Right.
So I just had to do it right, and I somehow, on the last laps, beat Ryan to the line, and I was like so happy. passed him in the hairpin. There was nothing he could do about it because I had such a big gear. So I just had to be.
You just had to go by
I just had to be close, yeah. And I remember he had been racing for a while, so he's so mad because he gets beat by a noob. He goes stomping off. Matt's dad, Mike, is the first person to congratulate me coming over the scales. He grabs me and he's freaking out because he's like, screw Matt. He went out. We don't care about Matt anymore. Now it's DZ's race.
Oh, man.
And yeah, I just remember that was like.
Probably keep that trophy.
It's at my mom's.
Come on.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a little silver, like plate size.
That's
it's
awesome.
at my mom's somewhere.
Man, you kick off the year in style.
Yeah.
Only got to beat Matty J that year.
Yeah, he kicked our ass the rest of the year, but it is what it is.
And you win the championship. 2 championships in a row.
Yeah, I got the
Club one and then your first regional year.
They had the banquet at the Fairplex in Pomona. I forget the name of the restaurant, but it was pretty cool. They had a cool little banquet. Got the picture and the trophy, and my girlfriend at the time was there, and it was like, ooh, it was all fucking cool.
Big deal, yeah.
Bro. It was the big deal. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And then I think the next year you're
signing autographs. You guys may have heard of me, novice champion.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
Beat Matt Johnson.
no. So the next year I can't run novice, so then we move up. We start running HPV, and I was running HPV on Saturday, and then Super Can on Sunday, and then while we were doing that, so also that first year that I ran in 2004 when I ran with Terry, I dabbled in. They had a WKA regional, WKA
I think I heard
West.
about that, yeah.
They just ran Willow, and I think it ran Willow, Adams, maybe Grange, just a few tracks locally, no big deal. And so Chris was racing. We were trying to go race Stars ICA with Hatfield at the time.
Oh yeah, it's rolling.
And so WKA ran the ICA class, so we could go run that.
Kind of like a little prep kind of thing,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah,
tack on?
just to go. No, they ran. They got a decent amount of cars because there was probably like 8 guys here locally that ran that Star Series.
Oh really? Oh
So
yeah.
At that deal, you'd get a decent little class. You know, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be a big class, but there'd be 6 guys that were pretty good.
So the depth was there.
Yeah, and so we'd go run that with Chris, and Seth was there at the time with Ray Robinson. He was running the shifter, the ICC, and Chris was running ICA, and we were running for, at the time, SSC out of Palm Springs here.
CRG deal.
The CRG deal. And so I was just Chris's mechanic. And then once at the WKA thing, they had a Formula Y class, which is a direct drive Yamaha with a pipe. And so I was like, well, I love that. I'm going to run that. I was like, Chris, you race one day, I'll race the other day. We'll work for each other.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
We both get to have a little fun, you know? And then we don't have to switch our go-karts over for classes overnight and stuff like, because normally we'd go run he would run sometimes 4 classes.
Wow.
At an IKF race. He would run senior sportsman, senior superbox, HPV3 and HPV4. Or if he could, when the sportsman class was novice for me, he would run Formula Y, senior superbox, HPV3 and HPV4.
2 per day.
Dude, yeah.
Man.
At Moran, we went 4 for 4 on poles and 3 for 4 on wins.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And the last win was like by nothing. It was, yeah.
Wow.
And so we were doing that as much as we could, racing everywhere. And so I got to dabble in some of the faster karts, you know, the Formula Y, which was not a lot faster than a Superbox, but it was a little. It was more
direct
fun.
drive.
It was fun because
Formula Y.
it's direct drive and it's live. It's a 330-pound class, so it was like
Right up your alley.
oh, it
Yeah.
was beautiful. And then
I can imagine a 330 these days.
With all the power.
I might be able to do a 370.
you could do a K. You could do a KA.
Big boy.
So I have at 360 last weekend. I had 37 pounds on my cart.
Good.
So
golly.
35 pounds on my cart.
Yeah.
So I could run 330,
Man.
especially if we took the battery and the flywheel and the clutch and the starter off that KA
Yeah,
and put a
make it
direct
even
drive
lighter.
driver.
I'd be maybe.
Then I could make
hit
320. Then I could do 320.
I could do.
Oh god.
That's nuts. I could do 370.
That's what it was. When I was a
maybe if you
kid,
did all
that was how the weights were. The seniors ran it like between, like, I remember there were classes that were even as light as 310 when I was a little tiny kid.
There was a lot less shit on the carts back then too.
Oh, yeah. The
so-
carts were super basic. And the engines had no starters, no batteries, none of that stuff. Like I said, I could take today's kart that has a little more extra stuff and with the bodywork and whatnot.
Right.
And what did I just say?
330.
360 minus the 35, we'll call it.
Yeah.
So that's 325.
You peel off the other stuff that's going to
peel off the other stuff. I can make 315.
Yeah.
Man.
So you make it 330.
So you make the class 320 for a light guy like me. No. I would say, you make it 330. Call it KA Pro. Slap a direct drive driver on it.
Oh.
Some soft tires.
There'd be
soft tires.
For the right people, you'd have the lighter guys too.
Yeah. Like, anytime you run a pro class,
softies.
Anytime you're running a pro class, you're not concerned with money.
Well, fair.
Yeah.
You're not concerned with spending money, I should say, because you're trying to make money. You're going to go spend $5,000 to win $1 grand.
Yeah. It's dumb.
It's dumb, but we're all guilty of it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if it's in one of those big cardboard.
Yeah,
checks.
so you're not trying to save money on tires,
Yeah.
So you run the softer tires, so you get a great race.
Well, we see that like Supernats, right? I need 17 sets of tires to practice.
And you run a lot of laps, so tire degradation comes into effect.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
take care of them.
If you're driving like an asshole in the heat, well, I'll see you halfway through the main, bruh.
That's pretty cool. I like that. So you go and we go back to your championship days as a novice regional champion here. Regional champion.
We'll call that the last championship until 2018.
Is it really?
I believe so. Yeah, because after that it was.
Were you racing full time?
That was the point. So 04 was the last championship jacket, last championship season, or 05 was, I should say. I ran HPB3 and Superbox in 05.
Right. In the following year.
I think Matt won both of those. Did he?
God, just stealing.
He was on top of his game.
What a pain in the ass, Matt Johnson.
They did all the testing.
Doesn't care about anybody.
Yeah.
Just winning.
He'll tell you exactly how many races he won during those seasons and all that stuff. He's kind of a dick, but it is what it is.
Yeah. The dick can drive.
Having to chase that is what made me what I am.
You get better by going against people better than you.
Exactly. Knowing that he put in the time and the effort and they had superior.
Right. He was all in.
They were all in, and we were all in, kind of, but still not on the same level. But then once we figured out what we needed to do, then we could compete.
But that's not the last. You may not do full championships, but you
no,
have some
I still
success
raced.
Doing other stuff,
yeah,
right?
I still raced a lot. I would run just one-offs here and there. We'd go run, like I said, King Taco Open was cool. They ran that for a few years.
How about the California State Championship? They were doing that for a bit.
They did I ran the California State Championship. I think every year I could because that was just like the home race. Whether it was here, I remember they ran it here at CalSpeed.
Well, that was just a few years ago.
They ran it once, I think, a long time ago.
Well,
maybe
the last year was 16. Last year was 16 here.
They did 17 again. 16
okay.
17. Yeah,
Yeah.
You're here in 16, but in before
no, you
that,
know what? Yeah, I'm thinking of something else.
Might have been in.
I don't think it was the Cal State. I'm thinking of the Nationals or something.
Yeah,
because they ran the Nationals here in
06.
Yeah,
IKF Grands.
Yep. Yeah.
So you're doing one off and stuff like that.
I ran that.
Have you gotten a Duffy?
No.
Oh.
I missed out on one going into the carousel.
Oh, here.
Yep.
Oh man.
Chose very poorly.
What'd you do?
Chose the outside. Wait, what did I do? I chose the right side because I thought I could make it around the left kink. We were running 3-hole and we were going clockwise.
Okay.
And I was here when we got to the kink. I wasn't here.
Uh-huh.
I was a quarter to a half a car up on the guy, not a quarter to a half a car ahead of the guy. So I had no real estate to control.
Yeah.
And the minute we hit the kink, they all pushed me towards the inside of the barriers and made me look like I was going to go into the into the infield.
Yeah.
They forced me infield, and I was like, okay, I got to get on the brakes. And that was a 5th place day instead.
Oh man.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
That the Duffy, and so this year I helped Seth's son, Blake Nash, get his Duffy, and that's why we were so happy for him because we know how hard it is for them to get.
Yeah.
It's not as hard as it used to be when I was a kid, but it's still like everything has to work out right.
Yeah.
That's one of those races that is like, I've seen guys lose wheels. I've seen guys lose chains on the last lap. I've seen the craziest. This one kid, Chris Gazar, that raced, I don't think he ever won the Duffy. He won probably, if you ask Matt, he'll tell you, but he won like 15 Eagles.
Oh, wow.
Was in the lead of probably 10 races and had something dumb. It was like the Dale Earnhardt at Daytona thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
That's
like,
rough.
That trophy has eluded so many people that I don't really feel bad not getting one, because I only tried to get a few. I've only tried probably 6 or 7 times.
I've only been once, and it was at 18, and I was in 206 heavy and Masters, senior heavy and Masters, and we were fast in both. I got an eagle in one of them. I can't remember which one, but we should have had one, but we ended up bending our stuff up.
Don't get me wrong, I still want one.
Oh yeah, no,
it would have been nice to win one pre 2008,
right?
2007.
I would love to try to go get one in 206.
I think for any of us that have been around karting for a while, even regardless of it, maybe not what it used to be, it's still the Duffy.
Yeah,
how you scratch it.
I wish they could find a different big race to give it at. Like,
I just need to figure out how to make that
or
race
figure
bigger.
out figure out how to make that race.
It's the IKF Grands.
Yeah, they need to tie it into something that runs. Like they tied it in with SCUSA recently.
So, well, yeah, Tom bought IKF, right? So he was able to, or however that works. So I'm not exactly sure.
I hope to someday see that trophy actually given away to a good race.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, right now,
it's pretty good. Like last year, it was pretty good, but it's not.
In 18, it was solid. I mean, as far as the fields were decent size, but it's the 4-stroke and the
it's just
K8
still not like what it used to be back in the day.
And maybe it never will be, but
no,
it's still gonna pump it up to something big.
Yeah, no, I would love to see that race become huge.
Yeah.
If I could go race it, I will.
Well, it's kind of like,
I will.
And there's not much of a spotlight on it until it happens.
That's
as far
as
the coverage nowadays and stuff, like it happens, and then the IKF Grands this week.
Yeah, and is there a date for it this year? I haven't seen
shit about it.
Yeah,
I would have to look. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
But kind of to your point, it's part about that, marketing and pushing
I'm not that far into my calendar for the year on that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it, but it's something that I'd pay attention to. Again, those are kind of the classes I've had the most experience lately.
Yeah,
206 and K.
Yeah, we went last year to Santa Maria and had a great time.
Fun track.
Yeah, it was great. The competition was great. It just needed more people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just more. Yeah, like I worked for Blake in K Senior, and there was a handful of good guys. The local guys race that are hard to beat. I would put them up against just about anybody at that track.
Yep.
And so
again, you may not have a lot of people, but the quality's there.
Yeah, exactly. The quality was pretty good. It just more quality would be not more quality, but more quantity. I should say.
Yeah, don't want too much quality. You want to be able to beat. You want to win.
I'd love to see 30 cars racing for a Duffy again. I remember going. So I went to Santa Maria. I think it was '99. They ran the nationals there. There was a 20-car LCQ.
Wow.
For sportsmen.
Wow.
Those
are the days,
15 dudes that didn't even get to race the next day.
Dude, sometimes the LCQs are way better in the finals. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so watching.
For sure.
When I say that's kind of what I mean when I say it's not what it used to be like. I remember watching that when I was a kid. Like, dude, there's 60 guys in this class. Like Super Nats is. Yeah. There's 80 guys in this class, and a third of them might not even get to race on Sunday.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That when I see that makes the trophy that much more valuable.
Yeah, we went with the summer shootout, the CalSpeed summer shootout we're going to do here in the summer. There's only four classes, right? Mini and then 100cc junior, senior, masters. We've got it slated just the 4 classes. And we're like, there's room in the schedule, obviously, for multiple run groups or LCQs.
We're hoping that senior goes to 2 run groups.
It'd be a
fun
problem
an LCQ
to have, man.
for that.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. If we actually end up getting that many people.
And I know it's tougher now than it used to be because it's a lot more expensive.
Sure.
Back then you could just do it for next to nothing.
Seemingly. At the time,
compared to now, it's next to nothing.
Well, I think the tough part too is with stuff like with how good Tri-C is doing. I can pay $500 if you're doing it bare minimum. I can pay $500 for the weekend and go race. Like Mike's class K Masters, like 25
Granted,
guys.
I am sponsored and given a lot of stuff. I raced Tri-C last weekend for like $160.
Yeah.
I mean, I ran on used tires. I ran fuel that we got pails everywhere with 1 gallon in the bottom of them, right?
Yeah.
Because you mix up 2, 3, or 4 at a time. Hardly anyone ever mixes up 5. And everyone leaves their pails. So we got a bunch of 1 gallon pails. So boom, DZ's got 3 gallons of gas. We got oil for days.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky in that aspect that
Sure.
I probably saved a couple $100. I probably saved $100 or $200 in fuel and this
in
and
the club
that.
level, you
but
can
still to
do
go
some
race
of
a
that
club
stuff.
race for $200 or $300, you can't beat that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Whereas
know?
you try to do anything, and again, that's owning the stuff and whatnot. You try to do that with anything else.
And we were just talking to someone else the other day there about getting their kid into a club race.
Oh, if they didn't have anything,
if they didn't have anything, I'm like easily probably $1,500 to $2,000 after a practice day and race day. I'm like,
if you don't have a cart, you don't have anything.
Yeah, it's tough for the less fortunate people to get into the sport. Like it used to be, you could just get a go-kart for a couple $100 and.
Well, and that's why we see the arrive and drive stuff, where you can.
And I love that that's available because that's what any of my friends that I know are not going to be able to afford to do what we do on the full-time level. That's exactly where I steer them because I've done a bunch of races. Not necessarily. I've done a few races with your guys' deal, but I've done a lot of indoor races at K1 and stuff. And I've had a hell of a race with a bunch of people.
I remember.
Like I tell a lot of people, I'm like, it's seemingly expensive here and there, but compared to the real outdoor stuff, it's not even close.
Oh yeah.
But you can go get in some gnarly races at the indoor.
Yeah, or like
and have a plenty good time without having to spend thousands and thousands and $10,000 to go race a national race.
You're going to go against some really, really good drivers in the Super Series in our Ride and Drive Championship. You can do the entire Super Series season, the entire thing, $1,300.
Yeah,
$1,300, and you have a 10-round championship that you can do.
Don't get me wrong. I love the big, high-profile stuff that we're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah,
but I really love the
grassroots.
I love the grassroots stuff just as much. I love to spend just a little bit of money and go have some fun racing some slow go-karts with my buddies.
Yep.
And it's
just as fun. But I'll also, in turn, if I have to, I'll go spend $10,000 to go race Super Nats if that's what we want to do this year.
Yeah.
It's so nice to
you get equal enjoyment. More frustration out of one than the other.
Probably attached to how much money you spent. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
like thinking back to
we want to do it all.
I'm like, damn. Now we work the Arrive and Drive events. I'm like, man, I miss being able just bring a helmet, show up and drive, and not worry about shit afterwards. Like that always looks so appealing now. But shit, dude. Like, oh, and the other part was I remember when I first started going to K1, I always saw your name on the leaderboard. I remember like you were.
So I got really lucky on that. I was hanging out with the Zartarians at the time, with Johnny Zartarian, because he's the same age as me. He's a day older. And Jeff Osborne, who still works with us at the track occasionally as a mechanic. And we were hanging out all the time. And they live down in Carlsbad, which is where Mark's shop is. And that's where there's a K1 down the street. And Johnny's little sister Adrian worked at K1. And so you go in, we'd buy a bunch of races, and she'd hook us up with a bunch of races, because at the time it wasn't a hugely popular place. They were trying to get the name out, and so we'd bring our friends and this and that, and they're like, oh yeah, you brought some friends? Cool, we'll give you a bunch of races.
Sure.
And especially if it was a slow day, we'd go middle of the day, middle of the week, when they're normally really slow.
Right.
And they'd hook us up on some races. And so that just got super addicting. So then it's like, okay, we're going down to K1 and getting I think it was buy two, get one free.
Yeah.
Even, at every K1, not just the one in Carlsbad where we'd get a decent deal, where they'd let us run a couple extra free races. We'd go spend the money to go run them all.
Man.
And just because it was fun. And then they were running their series was fun to run.
The GP series.
Their GP thing was fun. There was a handful of indoor guys that I met that were really fast and really competitive. And I was like, dude, this is fun to race with them. And then this one in Ontario opened, and they would do the full track. They would do
the super track,
combine both tracks and run the super track. And so I was like, oh, that's rad. And so we just did that all the time. And I just loved it. It was cool.
It was so funny, though. I remember seeing your name. It stuck out to me because it's another Derek. I'm like, who's this Derek Zimmermann guy? And then all the times I went to a GP, I never came across you. And then I forgot. I think it was one of my first LA Casey races out here. Someone's like, oh, that's Derek Zimmermann right there, or whatever. I think it might have been Casey said that's you.
Derek Zimmermann?
And I'm like,
that was third or fourth in that all-time thing on K1. when they finally they had like a date, they closed it down.
Yeah.
And it was like
they did like top 50 or something.
Yeah, they took the top 50.
I remember that.
They made the little plaque, and I was like, okay, cool. And it was strictly from just going and racing with Johnny, just to go have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
It was always the same racing. It was me and Johnny and Jo and David Thompson, and sometimes Adrian would race, Johnny's sister, and she's really good too. And we would just go have a good time. But Johnny was really high in the ranking thing. So me racing with him, I would always beat him because I'm like 40 pounds lighter.
Right.
So when we'd race, he could race with me. But when we'd set the lap for the win,
Right.
like I would just set a lap.
Right.
And I just kept getting big scoring. So that's why it was all pumped up.
Yeah.
It just
it
got
was
mega pumped because it was
how
like
many laps you turned,
it's like your KD on Call of Duty. You know, if I go make an account right now, I could pump my KD up really high, but because I got an old account, it's not amazing. It's not bad. It's 9.
Yeah.
But, you know, same thing at K1. When I started racing at K1, I was good. I won like every race.
Mm-hmm.
I would at the worst finish 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah.
So it was just because of how their grading scale works, who you're racing and how often, or who you're racing, how they finished, how you finished versus them, it just made my points go straight up.
Derek Zimmermann was the Matt Johnson of K1, just shattering dreams.
Clutch stayed
Hey,
together,
for
though.
real. Hey, I had 40-year-old dudes mad at me wanting to fight me, and I was like 21, 20, just for showing it. Like I'd show up no practice. You know, Seth and I would go during the week and just, you know, do a few off runs during our lunch break or whatever, and just smash into each other. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to run the series this weekend. Oh, cool, let's go practice. And so we do that and just have fun. And then I'd go show up for the race. And those dudes were there the entire day before, all that morning.
Yeah.
Like
prepping.
Spending hundreds of dollars to do sessions, right, to practice for this race. And I just showed up and threw it out there on the pole. And yeah, they weren't happy. But then
Guy's race name is Black Sheep.
a few, yeah, a few of them, like I said, I met a bunch of them, so a few of them all understood. Like they knew when I showed up, they were like, "Oh yeah, he's a normal karting guy. Like he's got an unfair advantage. Like
He knows that he can.
he races go-karts every week." But the dudes that didn't know that, they would get mad.
Yeah.
So mad.
There was a lot of people
So mad.
like, got over the top about that shit.
Oh,
There's 2 cadets.
but that only I'm a partial troll, and if you see my memes, you understand. So
egging him on a little bit. That
when I find out that bugs you,
Yeah.
it just makes me want to do it more.
you're
It just
right.
makes me want to show up to the next race with less practice, possible hungover.
Yeah.
Like
I wasn't even going to run the rest of the season. Now
now
I am.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the guys that were cool about it, like we were just cool. Like, yeah, I'm just coming once in a while. But the guys that had to be a dick about it, it was like, okay, I'm showing up to the next one.
Well, and you've gotten a chance to. That's not the only time you've gotten a chance to run with some other competition cars and rental cars before. I think you actually were able to run a mechanics race at one of, like that CalSpeed put on.
Yeah, so it was at the CKI race, I believe, at the Mandalay Bay.
We had
that was
the Machismo was going on that same time.
Yeah, they had a one-off race. I think it was the night before the Machismo.
Yeah, so
Or maybe it was just before the Machismo ran.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they let all the mechanics that were there working. I was there working for Matt that weekend. And we were racing with RLV and Top Kart. And I remember I ran that race, and it was me and all my buddies.
Right.
Because we're all friends, and we're all there working as mechanics for different people. And
Yep.
And so it was like, oh, there's a mechanics race? We're all in.
Yeah.
And so it was just me and all of our buddies running rental carts for an actual trophy. I think they gave something out.
Probably. Yeah, I would assume.
Corey won. So here's what happened.
What's a Corey?
Corey Pollock
Okay.
won. He's one of my good friends too. I think he won.
This is 2010.
2010. This is 11 years ago. And so I crossed the finish line first, but it was because, the little handle?
The
That's
bumper
awesome.
on the back?
Yeah.
You know, the little silver handle on the passenger side? Well, it was where the weight would be now.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
It used to be a chrome handle.
On the seat right there. Wraps
It
around
used
the back
to be
of
a
the
little.
seat.
It used to be a little chrome seat strut size handle, right behind the seat on the left side. And Corey pulled up next to me, and was going to beat me to the finish line until I grabbed that handle. And I think Rob docked me.
That's
I
awesome.
think Rob docked me for that, which I understood, but at the same time, we were like, what? Come on, bro. That's like all time.
You gonna go protest it?
Yeah, we're like, come on. That's like, even Corey was like, dude, that's the funniest thing ever. I was laughing the entire time.
Oh, man.
You know?
Yeah,
awesome.
I can't remember. Someone just asked me just a couple weeks ago. They were like, hey, man, I wish I remember who it was now. I can't remember. But they're like, hey, what would it cost to do like a mechanics race or like an arrive and drive race or whatever at like one of these events? And I'm like, well, it probably costs a lot, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to do it.
No.
He goes,
right,
well, how
do
come?
it.
I mean, I'm sure we can get it paid for. What I'm like, bro,
Half
you
the
guys
gu-
are just going to wreck my stuff.
Half the guys, I'll tell you right now what's going to happen. Half the guys are going to take it serious, and half the guys are going to take it as fun hour because they know they can't win.
And all
Right.
of them are going to crash
And
the shit
everybody,
out of each
exactly,
other.
yeah. 100% of us are going to crash.
We've all been to the indoor track after
Yeah.
a race or
And
whatever.
especially the second you get on the track and you realize you got a bunk cart, you're like, damn, this one ain't keeping up with that one for whatever reason.
Yep.
You know, it could be anything, whether it's handling or not, power, whatever.
You drank too much before you went out there?
Or whatever.
it
Yeah,
is.
you realize you're out to lunch, all of a sudden it's crash 'em up derby. Let's put them
Yep.
under the barrier.
You're
So I
grabbing
don't blame
handles.
I do not blame you whatsoever for not
Yeah.
entertaining
I'm
that
not trying
idea.
to bend up on my
No,
stuff.
I wouldn't do it either.
Let's fast forward to current times. So you haven't been doing a lot of racing. You just got done talking about you did the Tri-C deal, whatnot. Just starting to get back in the seat here lately. Have you? Is that kind of put a little fire? Are we going to see Derek Zimmermann race a little bit more, or is it like, oh, that was just for fun? And
So I'm not
still
trying
working.
to like announce anything, or no, I'm not trying to like come on here and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna race this and that and this and that. But like I said, I told Seth, like I told you guys earlier, I told Seth, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago that I was just getting the itch to drive a little bit, and I just wanted to go do some laps and hit a few races here or there, maybe, you know, club, I don't even care.
Summer shootout.
Yeah, just to have a little fun. And he's been sticking me in the go-kart for lead follow as often as he can.
Got to get that neck worked up.
And yeah, exactly. And so that's been going pretty well because that's something that I enjoy doing. I really like working with the kids and seeing them progress and going from terrible to pretty good to, wow, this kid's actually really good now.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the coolest feelings ever. And so I've really been enjoying doing that. And so, yeah, we're just looking at our options.
If you were to go race, what would be something you'd like to go? We talked about IKF the Duffy, but is there anything else kind of carrot out there for you?
I worked for a guy, Jeff Shaw, that we know.
Yeah.
Last season at the 4-cycle shootout in Phoenix. And we were talking then about doing the battle at the Brickyard race. Because they said they did it. I don't know if did Jeff do it last year?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know if Jeff did it last year, but I know the team did it because Steven went with Sophia and Vasquez. I know they went. I think Jeff might have raced.
Okay.
And I was talking to them about doing that because that sounds really fun. And then I've been talking to Morgan that works with Jesus about running, what's that one he does? So Quincy in the Park.
Oh,
yeah.
That one looks really entertaining too. See, I'm into doing fun one-off stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and those are both road racy.
Would I love to go race the Supernats, Rock the Rio? Yeah, but financially, it doesn't really make sense to take a week off of work to go
and training.
Spend. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, obviously,
money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'd have to get in a little better shape. I'm old enough to race the Masters class at most of the stuff that I would want to race.
Right.
So I would do that simply time saving for getting in shape and stuff.
Right.
I'm not trying to go race against 15-year-olds that don't have to go to work.
Right.
And have unlimited budget. So I would
even if they didn't have unlimited budget and they did have to go to work, I still wouldn't want to race with them.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
There's a few that I would because I see and they're pretty good. There's a few kids that are good, but yeah.
Not a Supernats, though.
They're crazy. Yeah, the kids are crazy these days.
I need to go to work no matter
I'm good.
what. Yeah.
I'd rather go cruise with the old guys now.
Hell, even the old guys will put you in defense.
Yeah, for sure. We know a few of those.
Yeah, they're gonna do it because they didn't know you were there, though.
So
not intentionally.
Allegedly.
I would entertain doing stuff like that. Like if the right deal came along where it was like, here, go race. It would have to be like with Seth or somebody like that.
Gotta be the right guys.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to go run a different program that, go learn a go-kart and learn a team and learn all this at some big race.
It's supposed to be enjoyable.
Yeah. I want it to be enjoyable. So, yeah, if I was going to go do a big race, it would be with Seth or I could think of a couple people I would do it with, maybe Perry.
Right.
Friends. HRT. Yeah, a few of my friends that I've gone to races with and had fun with, that I could do. If it was a really big race, I'd probably only do it with Seth.
Yeah.
Just because of our 20-year history almost.
Yeah.
There would be no question.
You had as you were answering that question, you had talked about what the coaching stuff means to you. Did you, when you were racing all the time, did you ever see yourself becoming a coach and going down this path? For that matter, is this what you were thinking was going to be the deal? I mean, we didn't even talk about school and that kinds of stuff. Has this always been like, I'm going to be a karter?
So obviously, when you're a teenager and a kid, you want to be a race car driver, right? And
certainly in our circles.
Delusions of grandeur as a lower class family from Upland, California. I would love to have done anything, but realistically, I knew probably mostly go-karts my whole life. And if I worked at it, I could probably do some other stuff here and there, but it just all depended on what I wanted to do, obviously, And I remember I would go and work with a few kids here and there, and Seth would hire me to go do lead follow with kids, and I would see their progress, and I'd make good money doing it. And I'm like, man, I'm, at 18 or 19, I had moved out and I was living on my own. I would stay at a friend's. I'd, either sleep on a couch with my friends or whatever here and there. And then I started doing that, and then I could afford to rent a place. Me and my buddy rented a house, and it was like, oh, well, now we're living on our own simply because we're going to the go-kart track, drive around with little kids. Like, this ain't a bad gig.
Right.
And so I did that for a while, and I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, I could do this. And as long as I was working all the races, and I could work all of the high profile races, and then I could race Tri-C for fun.
Sure.
And so as a early 20s, that was fine with me because I was making great money working and low overhead, either renting a room or staying at families for next to nothing. That was easy to do, easy to fall into.
Now in your 30s.
Now in my 30s, yeah, I have to be a little more structured, obviously.
But the wealth of knowledge you've gotten over the years has allowed you to do much more than just follow the
So
leaders.
I always think back to something my dad liked to tell me. I've forgotten more than you'll ever know, right? And so I tell some of these little kids stuff like that. I'm like, dude, I forget half the stuff that I've learned. I got to get refreshed on it every now and then, just because it's been a long time and I've learned so much. Like, I built engines with Terry for 5-6 years, I think, and that was all I did was do Yamahas and HPVs, and that was all I knew. And now if you ask me to go rebuild an engine, I'm like, I could take it apart and work on it, and I could do it. It's going to take me a little bit longer, but I'd rather just have Jesus do it or Blake do it or whatever. Right?
Yeah. Somebody who does that for
somebody
a living,
who that's their job. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I've learned that I enjoy having my free time, and I enjoy seeing the kids progress. And if I can somehow work that together to where I can do stuff like this on a Monday and Tuesday and go snowboarding whenever I want, and I'm good with that. That's fine. Like, we're cool. I make pretty good money going and teaching kids, and
you got a cool gig, and
it's a cool gig. Yeah,
I don't get your freedom.
Yeah, it does suck not being around for a lot of family stuff, because obviously family stuff usually is on weekends. Mm-hmm. Birthday parties and this and that. And
right.
Like this weekend, I miss a birthday party because I got to go to Buttonwillow.
Yeah.
And just stuff like that has definitely gotten old. But the freedom of when we're not busy, like this week, I got no plans.
That's awesome.
I have no plans this week because Buttonwillow's this weekend. We just worked this last week. I did lead follow Wednesday, worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Today my plan was to come here. The rest of the week I just going to do some stuff around the house. I got plans, but nothing.
Smash on some video games.
Yeah, I got nothing like concrete that I'm like stressing about. It's like, okay, I got a race next weekend. We're good. I got other projects and little things here and there that I'm working on, but yeah, it's not
laid back.
Yeah, I'm not. I've learned that when I do too much, I go crazy. I turn into a jerk. And so it's just better for me, better for everybody if I just keep it chill.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've been a staple in the industry here, firstly as a driver and then moving on now onto the other side of the fence. And always somebody who's smiling, having a good time. And now, as you say, working with the kids and kind of, ingraining yourself as part of the unit. After being in the industry now for, as you see, what is it, carry the 120 some odd years?
I just say
there?
over 30 years because it's been my entire life.
Right.
Yeah. People look at me funny when I say 30 years. They're like, are you even 30 years old? I'm like, yeah, I'm 34, but I was literally born at the go-kart track, bro. Like, they announced over the PA, yo, Kurt Zimmermann, you got to leave. Your wife just went into labor.
Wow.
Oh,
type
wow.
stuff. Yeah. So it's like.
Your mom was flagging in the other corner, though.
Possible. She probably would have. She's aggressive. She's the nicest lady ever. But yeah, it is what it is. It's been my entire life, karting and racing, and we can go do any racing though. Like, I've helped Matt on his late model stuff here and there.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything racing we can go do. Like,
Karting's your life, but racing
karting's my life,
is...
but racing's really like everything. Like, I absorb everything I can about racing when I watch, like, mainly like the driving aspect of it. Like, I try and teach the kids the proper way to drive, and you see a lot of the kids swerving around and looking back and swerving to block the other kid. And like,
yeah,
I teach my kids not to do that stuff. Like, when I was a kid, it was do not look back.
Yep.
You see the senior guys doing it, but they know what they're doing. So, like, I just try and do stuff like that. Just try and teach the right values.
Some
and
etiquette.
the right etiquette, the right, if you do something dumb, like we've raced before, and if I make a mistake, I throw my hand up and get the fuck out of the way because I know I made the mistake. If I pushed you off,
right.
If it was I meant to bump you and give you the bump and run, that's one thing.
Hand is on the wheel.
If I accidentally gave you the bump and run,
yeah,
I'm going to give it back to you because that was my bad,
right.
Whereas there is none of that with a lot of these kids. Like, most of the kids I watch are strictly like just 100% out to get everybody else.
Win at all costs.
Win at all costs. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm win at all costs too, to an extent, but at a certain point you got to own up to when you do something that's not straight up.
Yeah.
No, it's for me, and
it doesn't feel good winning when you do dumb stuff.
No, dude, I want to, if I'm going to race hard and there's going to be some contact, I'm going to make sure I don't end the other person's race.
Yeah. I'll bump and run you for the win all day, but I'm not trying to take you out. Like, I'm going to just nudge you in the corner a little bit. The braking, so you get a bad run onto the next straightaway.
Make your life a little hard.
I see these kids completely blast each other for one position, for 15th at a pro kart or pro tour race.
Yeah,
they're crashing each other.
Yeah,
and it's just like, you guys, why?
Yeah.
If you're racing for the win, I could see it, hard racing, and he's your competitor, you're blasting each other back and forth. You got, rivalry, this and that. That's all. But I just see random kids do it for random positions at the back of the pack, and they're not even in the same race as the other guys that are, running up front.
Yeah, there's no switch in their head where they're like,
you said earlier,
I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, like you said earlier, there's a lot less etiquette.
Yeah.
And so I really try and push that with the kids that I work with. I'm really lucky right now. One of the kids I have is one of the nicer kids. He overdrives, which is good, but he's a nice kid. So I can, those are two things I can work with.
Yeah.
Right? I can help him underdrive a little bit and help him be more aggressive.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's the other, where the kid underdrives a lot, but he's a little jerk, I can't really work with that because he thinks he's right 24/7.
Yeah.
He's never been told no in his life or that he's doing something wrong. He just thinks he's sliding around out there perfect the whole time, even though he's getting lapped.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see all the different kids too. And I try and, you got to change how you work with each one because you guys know with the Super Series, everybody's different. Especially with the kids, it's hard. All the kids have different personalities. Some are really outgoing. Some are really quiet and don't talk at all. And so you got to read them and work with
adjust accordingly.
Yeah. So, like you said, like everything else, you got to reach into your toolbox and go, okay, this kid was like that and this worked.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're pretty much going to be doing the karting thing. We're going to see Derek Zimmermann at the track for the foreseeable future.
I'm going to be a dirty old man at the go-kart track for sure. I'll be here in my 60s just like Everett.
Yeah, and you're going to be awesome. And you're going to be racing here and there.
I'll be racing. Yeah, for sure.
You'll be the next Billy Cleveland, man.
For sure.
That's awesome.
Billy is definitely an idol for that because I remember when I was a little kid, Billy was he was an old dude then that was racing all the time, and he's an old dude now that still races, and he is a badass.
Yeah.
One of the best.
I love it. Yeah. I absolutely love it. That's one of my favorite things ever.
Well, here's to a long and illustrious career in karting, my friend. Once again, thanks for coming out here and
thanks,
hanging
buddy.
out with us.
Thanks for having me,
This has
guys.
been an absolute
It was good.
blast.
Yeah, good time.
Thanks, man.